call the meeting to order. You all join us in the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
No, I didn't sign it yet.
Where did all these folks come from?
Thank you.
Yeah, that's why Jay was kind enough to bring them over there.
Angelo should be keeping these in order.
Open and blind, Jerry?
What are they, just,
The shucks and
I'm just gonna, let's just put them all in the file. I'm not gonna look at each of them. I can bug in and do that anymore.
I think those are the first ones I gave them. Just give back. They don't have to be. Is it helpful if it is?
Yeah.
That would get some people out of here. We can do that first, or we can get some other people out of here.
Oh, okay, you want to,
Serious?
okay. Give me, hold on, where's the oh, you stole mine?
No, that's mine, but you can use
Oh,
it.
that's yours.
We gotta do. You can make more.
Excuse me.
Steve waiting for a motion to approve the manifest.
Everybody, everybody else out with it? Huh? Well,
Yep.
Everybody, can I have a motion to approve the manifest?
I'll make the motion to approve the manifest. Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Are we on to the minutes, Steve?
We can do that. I was gonna, take it out of order. There's, some people waiting here. If that's all right with everyone?
Will it take long to do the minutes, Steve?
No, if you wanna do the minutes, we can do the minutes first, I guess.
I also have the May 29th draft, public and non-public, if you want to do them, or you can wait till next time. We didn't have them when the packets went out.
All right, can we put those off till
Yep, absolutely.
next time, please?
Yep.
Thank you.
So we're on the-
Yeah.
Okay, so, page 1 in the draft public minutes, first larger paragraph after the folks, named, it talks about, the International Day at Paul School, and I think maybe we want to inject the word fair after the word international.
In lieu of day?
No, I believe it was International Fair Day, but I might not be absolutely right. Do you remember what it was, Jerry? Was it the International Fair Day, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then the same paragraph, the last line on it says including 4 students signing a song. I think it might be singing a song. On page 2, a lot of the acronyms, like CBA,
Collective bargaining agreement?
collective bargaining agreement, okay. Is it possible, just until I get up to speed on that stuff, if the different acronyms, maybe it's spelled out for 1 or 2 meetings? And I think it might help some of the public too when they're reading the minutes, if they're not familiar with what, so. And that, actually, in that same paragraph, I had one thing that I believe Mr. McIntire was talking about the Professional Development Committee, and was talking about what people need to do as far as conflicts of interest. 1, 2, 3, 5 lines down from number 3, it says, any discussion or vote that could have a direct or indirect impact. I recall on March 6th, the day I got appointed, I stood and stated that I felt as though everybody should have part of the discussion. So I just think that tonight's minutes, if it's clarified that I believe discussion is okay, but maybe not a vote on the issue.
Right,
I do-
but that would go in tonight's minutes.
That would
not
go in
correcting.
tonight's minutes. I just, while I was reading that, I was like, I would always advocate open discussion, and then just abstaining from the vote on the issue.
Yeah, it's at the discretion of the member whether or not to abstain on a vote. What's the critical part is the public acknowledgement when there is the potential of a perception of impropriety or of bias.
I have no other changes for the minutes myself.
Everybody else set?
Yep.
Want to make it? Can you wait till public comment, Judy?
It's about the minutes stuff.
Can you wait till public comment?
Yeah, I can.
Thank you. Anybody want to make a motion to approve the minutes of May 15th, 2013?
As amended?
As amended, I'm sorry.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Second, motion second, all in favor? Aye. Any reason why we can't, do the non-public now, or do you wanna hold that off to non-public?
No, I make a motion to accept the non-public minutes of 5/15/2013.
The motion, second?
The only thing I had on that particular one was,
All right, but can we talk about, or do you wanna wait till the non-public?
I'd wait till non-public.
Okay, we'll put that off to non-public, please. All right, done the business, and like I said, if I can take this out of the agenda out of order, and could we bring up the math curriculum presentation, please? Jerry, is that?
Absolutely, thank you. We talked about math and focus in the last few weeks, in the last few months. We've looked at a number of different programs, and we're bringing forward tonight a program called Math and Focus from Houghton, Mifflin, Harcourt. A few teachers here. We've all been test driving all the programs we tried out, and we've landed pretty solidly on Math and Focus. And so a few people have come in tonight to talk a little bit about things that they've learned about Math and Focus, why we think it's a strong program to adopt for next year's school year. A couple of things I want to bring up. You know, I think one of the issues that I've heard from people quite frequently is it's Singapore math. Why are we going to Singapore math? Why not American math? You know, I want to kind of point out, though, that math is an international language. It's not bound by vowels of different dialects. It's all the same everywhere we go. There aren't any differences. You can take algebra here, and you go to Saudi Arabia, do it. You can go do it over in India, and you can do it in South Africa. It doesn't matter where you are. Math is math is math. Actually, some of the concepts that were derived from Math and Focus, or Singapore math, as you want to call it, a lot of those concepts came from other countries that are now the top countries in the world who are using a form of Singapore math or Math and Focus. Actually, in one of the concepts, you know, going from the concrete to the pictorial to the abstract, actually came from the United States, from American psychologists. And that's really one of the tenets of Math and Focus, is from the concrete to the pictorial to the abstract and growing. And we start very young in that concrete, establishing a sense of numeracy. Listen to Mahesh Sharma, who's one of the top math heads in the country, down in Massachusetts. And I met with Mahesh a number of times. And what he'll tell you is that numeracy is like a language. It is a language, just like literacy. That when a student reads a sentence in a book, or reads a math problem, he or she should be able to read that sentence and be able to decipher that sentence just like they do in a book. And it should happen as fluently as you're reading your board notes tonight. It should happen that quickly. And so our sense here is to start developing a sense of numeracy and number sense from a very early age and build on it from there. What we've done tonight is have some people come up and talk to us a little bit about what they've learned and what they've done in their classrooms and the success they've seen and what they found in their studies. Okay, you want to go first?
Sure.
Thanks.
As Title I Director, I looked at Math and Focus sort of from the view of how it's going to work best for struggling students. To touch on what Jerry talked about with concrete, pictorial, abstract, I feel like that gives a lot of differentiation for all of our students. So just give a very basic example, place value with base 10 blocks concrete, we're going to start with those actual materials. When the student is ready, then move them into picture representation, then to just basic numbers. So if they're struggling with the pictorial, we can always slide back into the concrete. So it's very fluid. The other piece that I really like, they use a bar modeling program for problem solving, and it gives students a very systematic, structured way to visually represent the problems that they are working on. I did a little looking around in the National Council of Teachers of Mathematics, NCTM, did some research on what's effective for struggling students, and they found that systematic ways for students to think and plan out how they're going to represent their problem solving, and also systems that give them the ability to talk about, either talk, write, or draw how they're solving, have been very effective with students that are having difficulty with problem solving. And then the third piece that I really like with Math and Focus is that it teaches to mastery. So they get much, much more time practicing those skills, and all students need ample practice, but struggling students need even that much more practice. So those are the three things I really felt would benefit our struggling students.
I think it's important also to point out that we're not the only school in the area that's looking at bringing math and focus, and a lot of schools move from everyday math into the math and focus. And schools that, like Epping, who in 2010 did not make AYP in math, moved into math and focus in 2011, 2012, achieved AYP in math. Shaker Regional, who in 2011 did not make AYP, moving to math and focus, they made AYP in 2012. Amherst didn't make it in 2011, made it in 2012. Newmarket, no in 2011, yes in 2012. Schools in our local area who are making progress, students that are no different than our students here, no different than our teachers here with proper professional development, are helping their students achieve the grade in math. Cindy?
Working with math and focus in the classroom, I looked at three areas. One was that it was student-friendly, the other what the lesson includes, and what the focus was. So under the format that's student-friendly, I found that it allowed for differentiation to ensure autonomy in learning, as a learning style base, so that each child's learning style will be touched upon, where they can look at it from their strength. And again, it goes from concrete, pictorial, and abstract levels. The objectives are clear for the student, with problem solving, and it develops concepts to mastery. Each lesson includes hands-on activities, attention to common errors, differentiation options, technology resources, instructional options, guided practice, application options, options for advanced learners, and math vocabulary. And the most important key I was looking at was the mathematical practices that it focuses on. It focuses on making sense of problems, persevering, reasoning abstractly, constructing arguments, critiquing reasoning of others, which is really important because if you want to be able to validate your answer, modeling with math, using appropriate tools, tending to precision, making use of structure, and a systematic approach, which is going to benefit the whole school. Thank you.
Jess?
Okay.
I brought basically a comparison between this math and focus and the curriculum that we're using now. So I made some copies, and I also have student work. And brought some student work from the elementary.
And in the back is an example of the same lesson, but in the program that we're currently using.
Okay, and you'll notice that the first, I labeled like the old material and the new material. And you'll notice that the old material is very straightforward. It's not very much in depth. And if you kind of pass on, you'll see like the math and focus, the volume and surface area, the differences in the assessments. Just looking at number 8 on the volume and surface area and solids assessment, that's an open glass, and trying to find the surface area of an open glass and comparing the differences. And if you look at the curriculum that I'm using now, it's find the volume and surface area of the cylinder. And the kind of questions that kids are going to be seeing are a little bit more in depth, much like what you would see on the math and focus piece. And I've copied student work for you as well, so that you can see how the kids had arrived at their answers. I also made copies of the part like pre-assessments, and how you can see the kids and pre-assess them to see what they how can I say this? What they know, so that I can provide interventions for them so that we can get them back up to snuff for that lesson. I also provided a curriculum review after so many couple of chapters. There's a curriculum review where you can take a day or two and review the curriculum that the kids had learned from the previous sections. I also provided an angles section as well, and how the students, on the backside, how the student used bar modeling to develop their answer to the ratio of those angles. And then again, some old material to show you those angles as well. Okay?
Okay, so we've looked at probably 4 programs, over 3 programs over the course of the year. We're very confident in this program right now. You know, as just pointed out, you know, we've covered a lot of material in everyday math. I mean, there's an awful lot. You go over, excuse me,
Everyday math?
which is what we're using right now.
Okay.
The program we're using.
It's
now.
okay.
So we've covered a lot of ground in that. But what we find is, we've covered a lot of ground, but it's not a lot of depth. You know, kind of the whole idea of it's a mile wide and an inch deep, because we spiral that program out. We don't work it to mastery. With Math in Focus, the idea is we work the students to mastery at every level. So when they move on to the next, program or the next level, they have it down. They know exactly what they're doing, and they feel that they're solid in that work. You have a question?
I do have a question.
Please.
I have to say, as a parent, I found that implementing of everyday math caused great havoc at our home. Our children were learning to add and estimate, and regular addition was not addition, and we had lattice method, and it wasn't necessarily introduced to the parents that were trying to help their children at home. Is there a similar introduction that we're going to have to give parents, or are we going back to a more traditional model? Because I think that it's very difficult for a parent to assist their child at home if we're not educated on how to do it.
And I think it's a valid point to bring up, because you keep hearing the new math. You've heard that. Parents have probably heard that for generations. This is the new way of doing math. One of the things we have to do is we have to make sure that that we as teachers understand the concepts of teaching math well before we can teach the parents, before we can teach the kids. The way you learned it, the rote method which you learned multiplication. If you didn't understand that 3 times 3 is 9, you probably didn't understand that 1 times 3 is 3, or 2 times 9 is 18. But really, what we wanted is to develop this understanding of numeracy from a base level. It may not look the same way you did, Bonnie, when you did math and addition and multiplication and division. It's going to look different, but it's more effective. So you're not going to have to rely on your memory of what the multiplication. You're going to understand what the multiplication is, and you're going to be able to work through that. Not just on paper and on your test, but when you go and use this in real life. And that's one of the kind of the things of the pictorial.
So in implementing this model, I know that we've moved forward to get the teachers their manuals for pre-season, or we've approved that we can get the teachers' manuals so that they can pre-learn. So it's at that point in time, are we going to be prepared as a school district to introduce the parents to any new methods so that the parents can be on task with their child? Because you don't want to be confusing a kindergartner first through, you don't want to be confusing them as we're implementing a new program. So
it's our older kids that we're going to confuse more.
Well, I think it's very confusing when you go from everyday math and you hit 6th grade and you go back to arithmetic. They're like slapped in the face with the math book, because everything that we've been fighting with them since kindergarten over is now true. And it's kind of like a double standard at our house, because I'm writing notes to the math teacher saying, what the heck is going on, and why are you doing it this way when it's done this way? And it was just because maybe we weren't introduced that was the type of method that was being taught. And I guess in approving any new program coming in, I want to make sure that we're totally on board with educating the parents so that they understand where we are.
The very first thing we need to make sure that we're educated well, that we receive proper professional development, so we feel like we're going into this strong, and that we understand this cold. When we're teaching it to kids, we're teaching because we understand it, not because we're guessing and trying to figure out as we prod along. And so we need to get that before we teach anybody. So to say that it would happen before school started, I wouldn't make that assumption yet, because I want to make sure that we know it well before we present it to parents.
No, but I don't think it's something that can wait till January and have frustrated parents and children. It needs to be implemented at an early time.
Absolutely.
We can make sure that we have parent forums so that you can ask questions about the program, and we'll make sure that we have representation there that will be able to answer any questions.
And communication from the teachers to the parents saying, we're implementing a new math program. Please feel free to contact us. We know this may be confusing or not the method you've used, but...
And how are we going to handle the older kids? Are they going to be able to get enough help, extra help, or whatever in going from everyday math to Math in Focus?
I'll let Mary answer that question. I mean,
Absolutely, because of the way the program is structured with, and you heard it from the teachers here, from the concrete to the pictorial to the abstract, at any point along the way, if the children are not understanding, if students are not understanding, we can go back to that concrete method and have them understand it in that concrete, bring them to the pictorial, and then to the abstract. That's the nice part about the structure of the program, because you can take the students at any point. To what Ms. Nato suggested as far as doing the pre-test first, making sure that we understand where the children are, where the students are at that particular point before that unit is really helpful in being able to determine which students need that concrete, which students are ready to move on to that pictorial, and which students are already ready for that abstract.
And where does math and focus fit in with Common Core? Because it's my understanding that everyday math does not work well with Common Core.
The math and focus is more aligned with Common Core than everyday math is. There won't be as many gaps at all with that as we move forward.
How is it more aligned with Common Core?
Common Core, one of the things about what Common Core does is making sure that the topics are going deeper and for mastery, which is exactly what the teachers just told you that the program is structured to do. It goes deeper into mastery rather than that really breadth and an inch thick that Jerry was talking about. It actually goes into the topic and goes deeper for understanding.
Can I yield my time to the school?
I was just going to say that in answer to your question, I think that you're going to find this program is a lot more student-friendly and parent-friendly. You're going to be able to understand it a lot better than the everyday math, because I know that's been an issue a lot.
Well, I just would like to make sure that the older kids can get some extra help. Because as Jerry stated, they're the ones who might be left behind as far as on a worst case scenario with the math and focus.
I don't just want to say left behind, so I just think it's going to be a shift over for them. But one of the things we do with math and focus is they do a lot of pre-assessment. So prior to going into that lesson or that chapter, there's a pre-assessment to find out what do they know, and they can build on that. And I hear, that I think with any change in any program, when you change it so drastically, there is going to be a shift, but I think it's going to be a shift that we're going to see lots of growth on. And, honestly, we want to find a program that we're going to land on and we're going to stick with for a long time.
How does it correlate with the Rochester math program? How is it going to be, are our students going to go in just as prepared? Are they going to, does this curriculum have any fallbacks?
They're actually going to be more prepared.
Wonderful.
Because the concepts are going to be in their toolkit, so to speak. They won't have to review in the very beginning of the year. You know how you used to have to review so much of the material. They will have mastered it already,
Wonderful.
Which is really nice.
Thank you.
Do you know what Spalding is using offhand?
Yes, we do have a copy of what Spalding does use.
Do you know what that is by chance?
Off the top of my head, no, but I think
Is it?
you have it, don't you?
For the algebra program, they have the UCSMP, which is what I use for my algebra class.
University of Chicago math program.
Sorry for the acronym. And then for the, they kind of have a various collection of algebra textbooks. For certain classes, they use certain books. So the teachers really have like a set of books on their shelf, and they can use them how they need from my interactions with the staff at Spalding.
But I think the important thing to remember is that we're establishing a sense of numeracy so they understand these basic concepts of math, so that when they move into the algebra, the trig, the calculus, they already have that base of understanding, in which that's the building blocks for all the other math they're going to face. So when what they're using there, we're establishing a sense of numeracy and understanding of numbers. It's concrete, and it's not a rote memorization that we rely on. So kids who can't remember their times tables, they have to revert to that sheet that's laminated inside their desk. They can go back and figure it out. They know it. They're not just having to remember it. You will find it on another piece of paper. They understand the math at a deeper level.
Now, are you looking for a motion to be able to purchase this tonight?
Well, I particularly would be requesting some addition. Do we have enough time that we can wait till next meeting, or do you need a decision tonight on this, or what? What's the timeline?
Well,
Meeting is the 19th.
we're,
I'd just like to be able to have an opportunity to go through it a little more, that's all. What's the
I don't,
timeline?
I'm kind of vacillating back and forth between rushing you to make a decision that you're not comfortable with and expediting this so we can get the materials in hand for the teachers.
Is it gonna
So
be,
it's our next meeting.
is our next meeting too late to make a decision?
Point of order.
Mary?
Mr. Holdeman, who is our rep, does live locally. He did indicate that he could bring the material up,
Okay.
and it would be a decision up to you, Mr. Gregoire.
No, again, if we can get the material, again, my concern is I want to send the teachers out, whatever program we decide. I mean, if we don't decide on this, we're not as comfortable with the other programs as we are with Math and Focus. So I'm not sure what we would land on at that point, because we really have pretty much decidedly across the board in the math committee looked at Math and Focus and said this is the program we're confident with, is the math educators in the building. So the timing at that point, Steve, would be tough. Because go ahead.
Jay?
A couple of points. I've talked to a lot of people that have used this program, and what they universally say is that there are some growing pains, and the teachers say that by the time they finish the first year, they are teaching concepts that they never were able to teach before at that grade level. The level of math knowledge that I hear from teachers is that the students are doing work that they never were able to do before. Secondly, I wish my kids were going into a school that had this program. I would prefer to have my kids in this program. That's not going to be the program they're in next year, but I would prefer it. I wholeheartedly endorse it and encourage you to vote in support of it. You have the support of a lot of hardworking professionals here, and I think that if you go back and look at it, the more you look at it, the more you're going to like it, especially if you look at student outcomes. If you look at student performance, in my humble opinion, I think this is the best program that exists right now.
Good.
I just have, I did contact quite a number of curriculum folks in the state. Jerry listed several of them that I did contact. And almost to the letter, all of them said they hear kids talking about math in the halls, which is something that they never thought would ever happen. But it's happening with Math and Focus.
I see, you got your hand up or no?
I'll scratch my nose.
Oh, okay. Well, how's everyone else feel? Well, is there a motion to,
What do you want to do?
if Jerry's up against, or if we are up against the clock, I'll be fine.
It's more than we're up against the clock, Steve. We're confident in this program.
Okay.
And that's I guess, and defer to this team of math, educators, professionals. They're saying it. Mary's a math person.
All right.
I just think we're on the right program.
Now, like I say, I think it's a good thing. I've personally experienced some good results.
Okay, I'm fine with, as long as I just wanted to make sure, that's all.
Yeah.
There were,
I'll make a
Okay.
motion to accept the purchase of the new math curriculum.
That being math and focus.
Math and focus.
May I have a quick point of order?
Can you wait till public comment, please?
Well, it has to be before you vote. You take 2 seconds.
Is it about
Yes.
this?
Does your policy state, is this the first time that this was brought to you to vote on? And if so, does your policy state that you have to wait any moment of time?
Okay.
I'll have to review the policy. If there is such a policy, then there is certainly a policy that allows the board to have a supermajority to override its policy. So it's a good question for us to look at.
You're saying maybe 2 readings of a new approach, is that what you're thinking for public knowledge?
I haven't heard an opposite opinion or anybody else give you any presentations about the program. It might be great, but you only heard one side. That's all. Thank you for your time.
What do you want to do? Go ahead. All right. Do we have anything else on this right now, Jerry?
No.
Jay, are you going to see if you can find that? Can we move on maybe to the next? Well, Jay's
Yeah.
looking that up. All right.
Come back to it?
What?
Come back to it.
Right, we're going to come back to it. Jay's going to try to find. Can we do the Wakefield technology plan, please?
Sure. Nate? Technology plan? Nicole? The technology plan?
I hope you all got it in your packets. All right, the tech committee's put a lot of work into the plan, overhauling quite a bit of stuff in there. The biggest changes are that there's technology scope and sequence. Technology curriculum hadn't been updated since, I believe, 2005, and I might even be off on that number. So we didn't have a technology curriculum that was updated that really called into what we had in the building and what we were doing in the building, what our students need to know. There wasn't anything in terms of technology standards that students needed to learn, especially with the ICT literacy standards that the state of New Hampshire has adopted.
Can you explain what the acronym is, please?
Oh, the ICT standards.
Information, communications.
I always just called it the ICT standards.
Communication.
I don't know. I should know. I think it's in there somewhere on the plan. Information, communication,
technology.
Yeah, technology. But then there's also the ISTE standards too. So there's that one.
International
there.
Standards for Technology.
Thank you. So there's all those pieces in there. There's also rubrics for to help staff members really revamp doing digital portfolios, which have kind of gone by the wayside the last few years. They really need to be done from kindergarten all the way up through 8th grade so that they have something going into Spalding or wherever they may be going for high school. So there's those pieces that are added in there. They're working with Back Bay. We've been talking about a lot of those pieces of what we need to do for the technology piece for the digital portfolios. Some of that is in the plan, some of it is not in the plan. A little bit procedures that we're going to be doing in the building to make sure that everything is up to par for our students, as well as to make it a little bit user-friendly for teachers with the rubrics.
What's that?
Very thorough.
Yeah, they did a great job.
Did an amazing job.
One of the things that was really helpful was having Nicole tell us where we've been and where we need to go. And we really roadmap that out in this plan of where we have been, where we are, and where we need to be. And it was very nice. Dover, all those I can statements, I contacted Dover Middle School, spoke with the principal there, the technology person there, and we asked to use some of their I can statements, and we translated them into what we needed, but following that model that had already been approved by the state, which is very, very helpful, so we didn't have to recreate something. And they were very nice and allowed us to use their I can statements or that strategy. And it really helped speed up that one part of the process. It didn't go quick, but it helped speed it up. And we started to use a lot of their statements and manipulated them with the staff and really reworded them to where we needed it, and it worked out very well.
And the ICANN statements and the technology scope and sequence are going to be pieces that are going to be used and implemented by staff members from the beginning of next school year and really adjusted as we go through. So there are pieces that, kindergarten might say, we're doing this part, it's not being introduced in first grade, we're doing it in kindergarten. So we might be adjusting it as we go to really reflect not only what is happening in the classrooms, but also what should be happening when we find out, we're missing this piece and it should be introduced earlier, or it's, says that we're introducing it at this point, but due to whatever reason we're introducing it later. So there will definitely be some adjustments to it over the next few years, so when it's up again in 3 years, it's not going to be a big process because we'll be working on it along the way.
When did you start this project?
It was actually started at the end of last school year when we started looking at the ICANN statements and the scope and sequence a little bit.
Thank you.
Nicole's chaired the whole thing, so she's.
That's wonderful, that's a
Knows it pretty cool.
great plan.
What do you got, questions?
I don't, it's very thorough.
Yep.
Thank you.
I'm gonna go ahead and make a motion. I'm gonna, do you like void a motion, or what do you?
I would need to withdraw my second to your motion.
Yes,
Bob.
and I will withdraw my motion in response to policy IGD. And if we can move the math curriculum to the next meeting for its approval and correspondence with that policy, I would appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I think we should do the same for the technology plan.
Yes, please. Do we have to approve the technology plan?
Sure. I mean, it's submitted to the state.
It's not adopting, it's not curriculum adoption. I don't believe that it's intended by IGD. For the purposes of the public, IGD is very brief. It's the policy of the board that no basic course of study shall be eliminated, new courses added without approval of the board, nor shall any significant alteration or reduction of a course of study be made without such approval. New programs and courses of study shall not be acted upon by the board until the meeting following their presentation by the administration. So, thank you for that catch.
I think I asked for that the first go on. I think Mr. Camo seconded my motion.
Okay. But that does not pertain to the technology plan. The technology plan is not a curriculum adoption. It's a required update of a plan that has a lot of different components to it. It's up to the board. In my personal opinion, I don't see it as being primarily a curriculum adoption.
Everybody comfortable with that? So, does anybody want to make a motion to approve the technology plan of 2013 to 2017?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, now if we can get back to, if we can take care of the summer meeting schedule for the board. If anyone's
Have a question, Steve?
Yeah, go ahead. Well,
Why is it that July and August meetings are held at the SAU office in Milton? Is that something that's mandated by?
no, I think it's
policies?
more or less because the water work's usually going on in the building. So they try to keep us out of here so we're not interrupting their progress of any ongoing work. Stripping
I
of.
thought it was strictly for air conditioning purposes, to tell you the truth.
Well, we have a closer air conditioner right in the modular, so.
Might be.
Pardon?
Might be.
So, I mean, I
It's
don't,
entirely.
I think it's entirely up to us.
It doesn't,
what, okay, we'll have it, we'll have it in the modular. Because I agree, I mean, you know, why not just have it here? So what is everyone, what is it?
Well,
I do believe that we should meet at least twice in August, and because we are gonna have new people on board that we need to become accustomed to, familiar with.
How about July?
The first week in July is gonna be July 3rd,
Yeah, not
and
then.
I just don't think that that's gonna be an appropriate week to meet.
No. How about the 10th or the 17th? Probably the 10th.
The 17th is my wedding anniversary, and I'm not gonna be here.
Okay, how about the 10th? How's the 10th work for everyone?
The 10th is fine.
All right, the 10th,
And go to
the
July.
10th, and then we want to do the 1st and 3rd Wednesdays of August,
Will be the 7th and
the 21st.
the 21st.
Is that all right with everyone?
What is it, the 7th and what?
The
7th and
21st.
21st.
and then it'll be held at our modules here in Wakefield.
Right, we'll have it right out in the modular, here, on those dates.
5 p.m.
Pardon?
5 p.m.
Yeah,
Wakefield, 5
yeah,
p.m.
5 o'clock, yes.
And we're gonna, instead of Hall School, we're gonna put at module or whatever.
Right. Just, yeah, if you can note that on the meeting notice, please, that it's gonna be in the modules.
Yep, got it.
So we're only having one meeting in July.
Correct.
Okay. Works for me.
Okay. I'm gonna vote on your copy of this, let me see, we have a grievance to deal with.
Okay, the question that has to be answered before you determine on the process for the grievance is whether or not the association would like to have that in public or a non-public session. I don't know who's planning to respond to that.
I'm Peter Miller. I'm Laura's representative. We'd like to have the hearing in public session, please.
Okay, then, would you like to come up?
So let's take a minute and shift. If you three move down, let's make some space there for the association to have a spot. And if Ms. Bellman can rejoin the board, then we'll let her take this spot.
Does anybody have a problem with me sitting here just to take notes? I won't be making money answering it, I promise. I just
Yeah, just.
have an almost dead computer, so, thank you. Mr. McIntyre, should I be sitting here?
Well, I was thinking that maybe you and Peter would sit over there.
Okay.
Jerry's favorite, his daughter's
Unless anyone has
favorite
another,
character
Mine
doing it
too.
for his daughter.
another thought?
Wonder Woman.
Always like that.
Hi, how are you, Peter?
Wonder Woman or Linda Carter, which one?
Doesn't matter.
Get the same.
Yeah. Well, there's a difference if you like the character. See, aren't you impressed that I even do that?
Well, since this is a termination, I think I would expect the district to explain, first of all, its rationale for taking the action against the employee.
I don't agree with you. I think this is a grievance over her evaluation. The remedy you're seeking is to undo a non-renewal, but I don't think that makes it a termination where the administration goes first, so you go ahead.
You don't think so? Well, I have some documents for you all. I appreciate very much you taking the time to hear us tonight. I don't have enough for everybody, I'm sorry. One for five, so one for each of you, and then the board. I guess. You want to do something?
Yeah.
One for the minute taker? Yeah, sure. Secretary? Sure.
I need one.
Jay, please, is there another one?
I'm sorry, there's not.
The secretary can have it when we're done, but I need it in order to be able to respond.
Absolutely.
And in addition, I'm going to hand out copies just to the board of the collective bargaining agreement, because I don't expect you to have it committed to memory yet. That's going to be on the test.
Thank you.
Actually, I have a copy of that in my bag.
I've got a copy of it.
Oh, you got, okay.
Do you have a copy of it?
I do.
So I don't know if there's a board member who needs a copy.
I know, I think they all, everyone got one.
Maybe Debbie.
Thanks.
First of all, let me just explain what we got in the packet that I gave you, the exhibit packet. Within that, of course, you got the cover, and then there's a list of documents, numbered list of documents in there. And each of those documents has a number on the upper right corner of the pages that are attached. You can follow behind. There's a little section where exhibits 13 and 14, or when 12 and 13 get together, and there's no number in the right-hand corner, but it stops shortly and then goes back in. Okay. And so as you can see, we've got things like the mission statement, the non-renewal letter, and then the grievance and the responses. Just a small portion of the collective bargaining agreement, some board minutes, an excerpt of the professional growth plan. Again, I didn't want to have to give everybody this document again. Laura Lewis's 2 evaluations, the ones that are actually available to us, none have been completed for the current year, so we don't have an evaluation for the current year to include. And then a number of letters from students, parents, and colleagues in support of Laura Lewis. And a couple of other things. I'm missing one document. The interview checklist and reference sheet from Laura's interview is included in the packet. That was in her personnel file. We thought it was important that you see that as well. And for extracurricular contributions, and not numbered on there, we also have a resume attached to the very back. Okay, so each of these documents is going to be something I'll make reference to during the presentation. And first of all, thank you. I understand this is a thankless job, usually, and yes?
Can I, just as a reference, the mission statement?
Yes.
The word global has been removed.
Is that right?
Yes.
That's not, okay, thank you.
But just for the record.
Local, just
the word global. I'm sorry. And global.
just so contributors to their local society.
Yes.
All right. Okay, thank you. Okay, realize you have time, a lot of things on your plate, but this is an important issue to address. An educator's future is at stake here. This is a termination. This is what in employment language is capital punishment. It's the most severe punishment that a district or that an employer can issue to a person. And but what's perhaps more important than that is that this is a hearing about what's best for Wakefield students. Okay? And there's been a miscarriage, there's been a mistake made in the non-renewal of Laura Lewis, and the district and the school board has an opportunity to correct that and to do the right thing by the parties. Your goal is obviously to do the best thing for students. Your mission statement says it. It's to ensure that your students master the knowledge and skills necessary to maximize the individual potential academically, socially, and emotionally, and become successful contributors to their local society. Right? And so it's got to be about the students. I don't like, unions sometimes get a bad rap for defending bad teachers. I don't like defending bad teachers. Nobody likes defending bad teachers. Laura Lewis is not a bad teacher, and when you have the information and you find out what's going on here, I think that you'll agree. So we're at the hearing tonight because Laura Lewis received a non-renewal letter on April 10th, and that's the second exhibit in your packet. So based on the circumstances, a grievance was filed on behalf of Laura with the principal. The principal responded to the grievance, denying it, essentially. He granted that he'd violated the agreement, but then he denied the remedy, which was to reinstate or to offer her a contract for next year. Ms. Lewis appealed to the superintendent. The superintendent heard the grievance and also denied it. And then we appealed to the school board, and that's what brings us here tonight. Okay. The three reasons to renew Laura Lewis's contract are that it's the legal thing to do, It's the ethical thing to do, and it's the smart thing to do. Okay? It's the legal thing, the ethical thing, and the smart thing. Allow me to explain. First of all, why is it the legal thing to do? The district will disagree with us on this, I understand, but legally, we believe that the district has an obligation to comply with the negotiated agreement when it's making decisions about people's employment. On April 11th, Mr. Gregoire informed Ms. Lewis that her contract wasn't being renewed, and he explained that his recommendation to non-renew her was not because of her performance. He said that the recommendation to non-renew her was because of complaints he had heard about her by other staff members. When asked if he had witnessed any of these things that other staff members had complained about, Mr. Gregoire responded that he had not. Okay? And he didn't allow Ms. Lewis to respond to any of the complaints either. Mr. Gregoire failed to allow Ms. Lewis to address or respond to the concerns about her employment, even though she sought out his feedback. She asked. Mr. Gregoire observed Ms. Lewis teaching once in January 2013 and noticed no deficiencies. That evaluation we're still waiting to finish that one because the process for an observation and evaluation is to come in and conduct the observation, write up the evaluation, and then I believe there's a conference, a post-evaluation conference. And is that the part that hasn't been?
No, I received my post-evaluation conference and was given a written synopsis of the observation, but I was not given my Charlotte Danielson rubric. I came prepared with my Charlotte Danielson self-evaluation. Mr. Gregoire gave me his written narrative, asked me to look it over for any typos and give it back to him, and he would give me a signed copy, and I never received my signed copy.
So as yet, Laura doesn't have any evaluations for the current year, for 2012-13. The observation, what you saw though, noted no deficiencies that you can remember?
He encouraged me to get the students to use the smartboard more, and he commented on making sure that there was a particular student who was maybe more chatty than he felt was appropriate for the classroom, and suggested the next time that I send that student to the office if he wouldn't respond to cueing from the teacher. That was the only thing brought up in the discussion.
So nonetheless, after observing the observation report, Ms. Lewis is attentive to criticism and wants to perform well, so she went to Mr. Gregoire and she asked him, is there anything I should be concerned about? Please tell me because I want assistance, I want to know so I can correct it. And he replied that he had concerns about her interactions with other staff, verbally, it was a verbal response. But he didn't mention his concern again until March 6th. So this is after the January observation. Says, yeah, I've got some concern about your performance. A month and a half passes. Now we're past the actual deadline for conducting both of the evaluations. And he says, yeah, I've got some concerns when it comes time to non-renewals. And then he said a staff member complained about a substitute that Ms. Lewis had assigned to a classroom. And Ms. Lewis, aside from teaching 8th grade math, she also does a lot of other things in the district, and one of those things is coordinating substitutes. I don't know how that happened, but it's one of her jobs.
It's a stipend position.
Stipend position, okay. Let's see. So Mr. Gregoire didn't offer any suggestions for improvement, and he didn't allow Ms. Lewis to explain the misunderstanding. She heard nothing more until he presented her with the non-renewal notice in April 2013. And so today, we still don't have the observation and the evaluation, the one evaluation that was partially completed for the year. So the district's actions violated the collective bargaining agreement, and they violated the following sections. And these are, the page is Exhibit 8 within the packet. So you'll have the cover page of the collective bargaining agreement, and then on the other side of it, yes, it looks like this. So the actions violate 12.2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay. So first of all, 12.2 calls for evaluations to be conducted promptly. And you can see that shall occur 30 minutes with full knowledge of the teacher, or that a conference between the teacher and evaluators shall occur within 1 week after an observation or within a reasonable time. The written report of the observation shall be signed by the teacher and evaluator within 24 hours of the conference. This just hasn't been done. The first evaluation of the year is still hanging. Second, notification of deficiencies. Obviously, Mr. Gregoire thought there were some deficiencies with Ms. Lewis, but he didn't follow the contract language. The administration, recognizing the concept of progressive improvement, shall promptly notify a teacher in writing of any alleged deficiencies, indicate the expected correction, and indicate a reasonable period of time for correction. In the event that a deficiency could result in termination, copies of any notice to the teacher shall be also forwarded to the association. None of that happened. Okay. 12.4, definitive positive assistance shall be provided to teachers with upon recognition of any professional difficulties. So the district is obligated, we've agreed that the district should help a teacher out before they terminate. But that ultimately teachers are responsible for their own performance. That wasn't done, despite direct requests for assistance, like what can I do to improve? Nothing. It was just wait for more criticism and then drop the hammer. And then finally, 12.5 is about complaints. Mr. Gregoire says that there were complaints about Ms. Lewis's performance from various people. This explains exactly how complaints should be handled. It should be promptly investigated. There are no written complaints. Verbal complaints won't be put in the file. There's nothing in the file about this. And then the teacher shall be given the opportunity to respond in order that they can rebut the complaint. And again, none of these things were permitted to Ms. Lewis. Finally, unsubstantiated complaints shall not be placed in the employee's file. Okay. So we have a series of contract violations. Mr. Gregoire acknowledged that yes, he violated the agreement, but he didn't grant the remedy that was requested. And the remedy that we seek is to have Ms. Lewis reappointed, reinstated to her position. Therefore, the school board should rescind the non-renewal notice and offer Ms. Lewis a contract for 2013-14. I'll say at this point that Mr. McIntire has replied to the grievance also, and basically his response is this. I'll summarize. Jay, jump in. Laura Lewis is a probationary teacher, therefore we can terminate her, and it doesn't matter why. And you got no right to say anything about it because she's probationary.
Can I clarify that point?
Please.
I don't think that's exactly the case. No. It is the case that a reason does not have to be provided, but it doesn't mean that anything can be the cause. If Ms. Lewis was a member of a protected class, then she couldn't be discriminated against because of her gender, her age, any of those protected classes. That would not be lawful. Short of an illegal reason, the law is clear that no reason needs to be provided.
So the administration's position is that you can fire a great teacher in their third year just because you want to. Mr. McIntire is correct in saying, I agree, that the district is not obligated to give a reason to a probationary teacher, but the district did. Mr. Gregoire explained he non-renewed Ms. Lewis because of the complaints that he heard. And therefore, that reason has to be bona fide. It has to be a real reason. And he's got to be ready to defend it. And clearly, there isn't the defense since he didn't even investigate the complaints or allow her to respond to them. So granting a contract first is the legal thing to do. It's the legally correct thing to do. And although there's a disagreement between the association and the administration regarding what's correct, the next step in the grievance process is binding arbitration. And despite changes in state law, this collective bargaining agreement does still permit binding arbitration for non-renewals. So there would be another hearing and more legal expenses after this. So one, it's the legal thing to do. The second reason to give her a contract and to grant the grievance is that it's the moral thing to do, an ethical thing to do. So in addition to the negotiated contract, in addition to the collective bargaining agreement, the district has another document that explains how evaluation and renewal decisions should be made. the SAU 64 professional growth plan. All right. This explains the responsibilities of teachers and administrators regarding the renewal of contracts. Since teachers are the biggest investment that the taxpayers of Wakefield make in their community each year, the school district decided to devote resources to a plan to make sure its educators were meeting their standards. Hundreds of teachers' hours were dedicated to writing this plan last year. So people in the room would be able to tell you that people were out of classrooms for extended periods of time. In many committee meetings, many substitutes were hired. The district paid quite a sum of money to allow teachers and administrators to prepare this plan. And evaluations are also a hot topic right now nationally, in case you didn't know. When the Chicago teachers went on strike last year, one of the main issues was the evaluation process, including student performance and teacher evaluations. Well, I don't necessarily agree with everything in this, but the teachers and the administration came up with a plan that works for them. And it was approved by the Wakefield School Board of the SAU Board with all the 5 Wakefield members present. And that's Exhibit 9 in your packet, minutes from that meeting. So this is your document. You've endorsed this document. And you've told the employees, these are the rules that we are recommending for evaluation. Okay. So the school board should honor the document. Yes.
The majority of the sitting board isn't completely aware of this, so.
Okay, I will explain it somewhat. I'm doing my best.
You're doing fine. I just wanted to clarify that in 2011, I believe this was.
Yeah.
The majority of this current school board was not sitting.
It's not here, okay. Okay. Well, as far as the employees are concerned, this is what the district said, this is what we're going to do. So these are sort of the rules that they understand. So we hope the board will honor the document, and we think the board should honor the document, because there are bad consequences if the board chooses not to. First of all, it'll be a message to the teachers that their efforts weren't important. It'll be a message to the community that their tax dollars were wasted when their substitutes were hired and teacher time was dedicated to creating this document. There's therefore an ethical obligation to the people who are working under this document and also to the taxpayers who paid for it to abide by it. So what does the plan call for? It calls for many of the same things that are in the collective bargaining agreement. So for instance, I think it's got some extra detail. It includes 4 different sections in the main. There's a section on evaluating probationary teachers, both evaluating continuing teachers or teachers with more than 5 years experience, an improvement section, like what to do with teachers who are having difficulties, and then finally there's a section on evaluating administrators, which is yet to be fleshed out, I think. And in your packet are the sections on the probationary teacher evaluation and also the improvement section. Okay. All right, so let's look at the packet on page 11 of the evaluation plan. So Exhibit 10, page 11. I mean, despite the size of this document, most of it's appendices, so it's not that hard to get through and actually figure out what's going on with the evaluation process and what's expected of everybody. So on page 11, you'll see generally it calls for 2 evaluations per year, formal evaluations, followed by a summative evaluation that's based upon a bunch of different stuff in the teacher's portfolio. Okay. So on page 11, near the bottom, final paragraph, it says formal observations will be conducted before March 1st. Okay. So formal observations will be conducted before March 1st. I mean, there's a good reason for that, and obviously that's because employment decisions are going to be made after around March 1st. So if you want data to base your decisions upon, you need to have your data before you make the decisions. Okay. So that wasn't done. On page 12, The process calls for a summative evaluation. So annually, they'll complete a summative evaluation for non-tenured staff. Walkthroughs, formal observations, student data, portfolio development, and goal conferences will form the summative. This wasn't done either. Down at the bottom of page 12, you see renewal. Contract renewal will be determined annually by the administrative team that works most closely with the non-tenured teacher. This decision will be based upon the summative evaluation of the teacher. The team will include the principal, but may also include other building or SAU level administrators. So obviously these things didn't happen. Mr. Gregoire didn't complete even one evaluation before March 1st, much less did he complete a summative evaluation that parties had said is an important tool for determining whether to continue a teacher's contract. So instead of doing, yes?
It's my understanding that there was an observation done on January 13th.
Correct. There was an observation, but the interview part, the evaluation process includes an observation and a conference and then returning the signed document. And to date, the document has not been, we haven't got it back.
And a
yet.
second observation as well.
And a second observation.
Okay, but the observation was in fact done. There was just no written response to the observation of January 13th, correct?
There's no written response to the observation. It wasn't completed. I mean, you got like...
Right, but the observation was, but the written, maybe I'm using the wrong, not a written response, the written response of the observation of January 13th was never received. But the observation, in fact, took place.
I saw a write-up of his observation, but never received the additional piece that I've received the other 2 years, which is the Charlotte Danielson rubric, which is where I put my signature and then it gets sent to the SAU to go in my personnel file. So he observed me, we did a post-conference, but I never received a copy to put my signature on so it could be filed in my personnel file at the SAU office.
Right, but the
One of the two were done.
right, on January 13th.
Yes.
Okay, all right, I just wanted to make that clarification. It was,
You bet.
sorry.
Okay. All right. He didn't follow the plan at all. Right? Instead of looking at evaluations and doing his job and performing them and really looking at the facts, he heard some rumors and decided the easier thing to do was be a non-renewer. And that's not fair. It's not fair to the teacher. It's not fair. It's not fair to the teacher. It's not fair to the district or the students because there's a set of rules laid out, an agreed set of rules that the district was going to abide by, and they should expect the district is going to follow its own rules. The professional growth plan also explains what should happen if a teacher is in need of improvement. And if you go to page 19 of the plan, you can see the awareness phase, the educator improvement track is what it says. And there's an awareness phase and then an improvement plan. Basically, it's common sense, right? If someone's not doing their job right, you let them know first of all, and you try to correct it, and give them a chance to correct it on their own. If they can't correct it on their own, you go to the improvement plan, which is, be clear, these are the things that you have to do to improve and to meet our standards, or else you're not making the grade. Okay, very common sense stuff in here. But again, it explains the district should tell the employee and try to resolve the issue, much like Article 12.3 of the collective bargaining agreement. And it also, the improvement plan explains what goes in the improvement plan. It looks like a very well thought out document here. So despite Mr. Gregoire having those concerns about her employment, he chose not to follow the plan, and the explicit guidelines are simply ignored. It's important also, I think, to note in the top part of this that this is not intended just for continuing contract teachers. This is intended for non-tenured teachers as well. If you look at the bullets above improvement plan, says at the conclusion of the awareness phase, the administrator will review the progress and make one of the following recommendations. The educator returns to the non-tenured or experienced educator track. Right, so clearly, this is not just for experienced educators, but it's for probationary teachers as well. So we shouldn't use the excuse that, we shouldn't accept the excuse, well, she's probationary, we don't really have to follow the rules. This is written with probationary teachers in mind, clearly. So, let's see, sorry. All right, so we have these three reasons. So you've got the ethical, it's the ethical thing to do, to play by the rules that the teachers were expecting. It's the legal thing to do, believe that there's an agreement that the district will do these things and will honor the agreement. But also, the third reason to keep her is that it's the smart thing to do. It's the really smart thing to do. She's a huge asset to the Wakefield School District. And you probably aren't going to take my word for it, although I'm a very trustworthy person. But take a look in the packet here. So first of all, she's a great teacher. And just in her own explanation of her teaching methods, she talks about how she has high expectations for students. Her formula has high expectations for students. Successfully integrating technology into the classroom. So she's got a smart board in her room and she makes sure that it's getting used and students are participating in it and that they're motivated by it. And then she focuses on learning. So she pays attention to each student's, what is going to make each student learn. She differentiates instruction, to use the shorthand of the day. And those are themes, the attention to student learning is something that comes up over and over in the letters that you see that are attached, that are in the packet. So if you go ahead and look in the packet, well, you have both of our evaluations, the summative evaluations from the time that we have. So exhibits 11 and 12 are those two evaluations for you to look at. And these are generally very positive evaluations, and just scanning them visually, you can see that she's doing a very good job. She has a number of distinguished marks. Almost all of them are proficient, and there are one or two basic marks in there in things, and everyone needs to have something they can improve on. So you can look through those at your leisure. And then we also have students who are speaking up in favor of Ms. Lewis. So the first letter that we include in Exhibit 13 is a letter from Zachary Eaton. It's a fairly long letter, so I'm not going to read the whole thing, but just to give you some examples, it says, 8th grade was my most improved year of school. I struggled with math at the start of the year because I was lacking critical knowledge. Ms. Lewis worked with me many days after school and in her spare time to help me catch up. She put in many hours for me and other students that had a hard time at the beginning of the year. Now I'm doing so well, he goes on, I'm taking honors level math classes in high school and achieving great grades. Also, Ms. Lewis is a single mother of 2, in case you weren't aware of that. And one of the questions that I've had in talking to her is how she does all this while having 2 kids. Because teaching isn't the only thing. But what's important here is that Zachary states in the 4th paragraph near the bottom, he says, not one time did I see her slack in the classroom because of her busy life. She still made sure that all of her students' needs were answered. The next letter is from Dylan Talafero. Is that right?
Yeah.
Talafero? Okay. Mr. Talafero notes that she would never give up on her academic grades. She would sit there with you before and after school and help you. And isn't this what we want from teachers? Right? Teachers who are going to work with students and find out what makes them learn. And he says, I would really love for my siblings, along with their classmates, to have Ms. Lewis as their teacher. Please let Ms. Lewis stay. The next letter from Betsy Gorney, a parent. She has gone above and beyond her teaching position while helping the 8th graders with their class trip, fundraisers, graduation, and yearbook. She taught both of my daughters, and I absolutely want her to teach algebra to my son next year. Jackie Keating, he was into colleague letters now. So it's with great enthusiasm and deep sadness that I write this letter. The enthusiasm comes from 3 years of working with such an outstanding teacher and staff member. Sadness comes from the possibility of losing a strong colleague and a friend. So it goes on to say, Laura's never too busy to help out in so many ways. She has an excellent rapport with parents, which is something that not all teachers have an easy time with. Laura is conscientious conscientious, dependable, sincere, and very positive. The next letter in the packet is from Erica Stefanik, who is the curriculum and instruction and assessment coach for math in the Rochester School District. So Laura worked with her last year? Not
The previous 2 years, I haven't gone down in this year for any of the meetings.
Okay.
because They've moved on to the higher level math that I'm not involved with.
Okay, so that group is doing other things. But Laura worked with them to work out the curriculum, and she had positive things to say about her teaching and about her involvement in the curriculum programs also. Next, number 18 is a letter from Robert Lukasiak, who's a math consultant who this district employs as a math coach, so as a math expert to help other teachers teach math. Is that the right explanation?
He's here.
Yes, thank you, yes, right, that's fine. In his letter, he states, Laura has proven to be a dedicated professional with extraordinary skills and knowledge as a math educator. She's extremely savvy with technology, and this translates to her high level of efficiency and productivity, because she does things like because she's very comfortable with computers, she can do things like scheduling for the middle school in a way that's much quicker and easier than had been done prior to her arrival in the district, or it was being done by hand. Robert also shares an anecdote. He'd like to share an anecdote from my work with teachers at Spalding High School in Rochester. The Paul School is a sending school to Rochester, obviously. It teaches the 9th graders who told me that out of all the schools that send students to Spalding, the Paul School students are the best students we have. That's a pretty nice statement. These teachers have specifically commented on the fact that these students are able to use graphing calculators and that they can reason, they can think. I directly attribute these outcomes to the great work of Laura Lewis. Laura Lewis is a model 21st century math educator. Her skills and practice reflect current research. Her commitment and dedication to her students and the school community is undeniable and impressive. Exhibit 19 from Betty Erickson. Is Betty here too? I've always been impressed with her understanding of technology, her ability to differentiate instruction, her assistance to learners that need additional help at the concrete level. Laura recently presented at the NELMS conference, which is a tribute to the Paul School. So she's teaching teachers based upon the things that she's doing here. And so there are other letters in here as well. And you can read those at your leisure. So although she's only in her 3rd year here in the Paul School, she brings experience with her from teaching in Ohio and elsewhere in New Hampshire. So the question I guess I pose to you all is, what more could you possibly want from would you want from an educator? And what more could you want people to say about your teachers and the things that these folks are saying and roundly and broadly in support of her? So Exhibit 25 in the packet shows that her performance here hasn't been a surprise. It's not like you didn't expect her to be a great performer. Exhibit 25 is the interview checklist that was in her personnel file. So when she was hired, there's a rubric that goes out, and you can see that the interviewers checked outstanding all the way down with 2 high above averages on estimate of enthusiasm. Wow. Bring it up. And leadership experience. So people knew she was going to be a great teacher. Same thing for the next page. All outstanding, final ranking of 5, the top rank for a teacher. And then great references from people who knew her. All right. So most of what we've talked about deal with Laura. Thus far, I've just been talking about her teaching for the most part. She also makes enormous contributions outside the classroom. So Ms. Vivian Macedo has actually commented in past board meetings that she wants to be sure that there's a fundraising plan in place, and that when Mr. Gregoire, when he was hired, that there would be a fundraising plan and that things would be done, because I think in particular for the 8th grade trip, you have the experience of having parents need to pay to have their students go on an 8th grade trip. So I think it was as recently as 2009-10, so the year before Laura got here, parents were paying about $50 per student to have their kids go on the 8th grade trip. When Laura got here, she immediately jumped in to participate in the fundraising committee and many other things in the district. And that's, Exhibit 26 is a list of some things she's done that she does above and beyond what's required of her. So in 2010-11, in case you know this already, so in 2010-11, Laura and Liz and the others in the fundraising committee worked very hard, and they raised $12,000 for the 8th grade trip. And this allowed all the students to go without their parents needing to pay a dime. And in addition, each student was given an average of about $15, or they earned about $15 each for spending money on the trip. In Laura's second year, they also raised $12,000, but it was a smaller class, so they had more spending money that they could take. And finally, in this year, they raised about $16,000, and the program has been expanded. So now, as you know, they're going to a Red Sox game, and they have more spending money, and they have more money for meals. So fundraising is something that I think people know that Laura's been involved in, and very involved in. She's had ideas. She brought up new ideas. She's led projects. She doesn't just suggest an idea and run away. And imagine if you had board members like this. Imagine how much would get done.
Quite an imagination.
Yeah, I know. Thank you. So the pizza thing. What was the pizza thing?
I just coordinate the pizza sales that the kids do, so I'm the point person for that, and the kids give me the orders. It comes in, we sort it. So that's one fundraiser that we do twice a year.
To the district, yes.
No, that was one that I took over. The parent was running it, and I took over.
Okay.
I brought the bingo for books and the Christmas babysitting, things like that.
So the question that you should be asking yourselves is, when Laura leaves, who's going to fill that hole, right? Are you going to hire someone, a development expert, to be doing this fundraising and filling in this hole, or what's the plan? I guess that's a valid question that one asks the principal. So the second, aside from fundraising, the second thing goes above and beyond that I want to talk about is her leadership in standards-based grading in the district. So, do you all know about standards-based grading? Somewhat, yeah, okay.
Learning.
You do, okay.
Learning.
You're learning, all right, good. So as you know, the Rochester is doing it, and the idea is to have instead of just a single letter grade, have standards-based, so that people understand, both parents and students, have a better idea of how their students are doing in more detail. It's instead of a single number, multiple dimensions. So it's more work, but it's valuable to the students and it's valuable to the parents, so it's the right thing to do. So this year in the school, grades KA1 and 7 and 8 are piloting, or the first grades to have adopted standards-based grading. And the plan is for the whole school to adopt standards-based grading over the next 2 years. So Laura Lewis began her students with standards-based grading. She started using standards-based grading with her students last year. So before anyone else was doing it, she was piloting the program so that she could help with the committee to bring standards-based grading to the whole school. And her experiences were useful in the committees that met and in developing the plan to have standards-based grading throughout the district. She's been a leader and a central player in determining how to implement standards-based grading district-wide. She's led workshops. She's created data systems for report cards so that people have common ways of evaluating. She's presented to the school board about this in 2012. She's created parent documents and facilitated a parent meeting last fall. She has been a real leader in the district in terms of getting standards-based grading here. Other things that she does, she's on the universal team, which helps to set positive examples for student behavior in the district through videos.
Different role-playing situations. We've done videos, we did a skit in front of them, but role-playing situations.
Okay, so behavior intervention before it becomes a problem, teaching good behavior. She was invited to be on the team. She's the go-to person in the school for technology, for curriculum. As you saw right here tonight, people called out to her and said, what's the answer to this question? We don't know the answer. And Laura Lewis is the one who could tell you the answer. So in summary, you have a first-year principal who decided to non-renew a third-year teacher based upon rumors. Right? He violated the negotiated agreement. He violated the school board's professional growth plan. And the question is, why did he do it? And he didn't do it clearly in the interest of Wakefield students or parents. And he didn't do it for the people who fund the school. And we ask you to do the right thing and rescind the non-renewal notice and grant Laura Lewis a contract for next year. You do have the ability to do that. And this is where, as board members, things become tricky, okay? Because I'm going to guess, I will bet, I'll put money on it, that the administration will tell you that you can't do it because the positions are all filled. We've already got the assignments made and can't change the assignments, and therefore we're stuck. We can't do it. I would argue that that's completely false, okay? And that in fact, based upon some information that we have, that some of the assignments that are going forward next year are actually in violation of state regulations for certification and approval of schools. So some of the decisions will have to be changed anyway. There is a position, there's an opening the district is hiring for right now. It would be possible to move Laura into that position, or to hire her back to her position or to another position, and continue the great work and grant the teachers and the parents and students what they deserve, which is having a great teacher in this classroom. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Miller. You've done a great job of outlining some of Ms. Lewis's considerable strengths. So thank you for doing that. It's important for her to hear that, and I appreciate her having an opportunity to hear that in a public session. Now, before I go on to my presentation, I want to touch on a few things that you mentioned. One, you finally got to where I wanted to go at the end, so I appreciated that. For a while, you talked about the things to do. You referred to the legal thing to do, and I will defer to Mrs. Lohman when she discusses with the board when they're having their considerations of what's legal or illegal. You also mentioned the ethical, smart, and moral thing to do. I support those wholeheartedly. At the very end of your presentation, you got to what's the most important consideration for me. The most important consideration for me is what's the thing to do that's in the best interest of students. You did get there at the end. That's where I hang my hat. Not that I would give up on morality or ethics for that, but that's where I start, is on the best interest of students. It's unclear to me, the material that you presented references a grievance to Articles 12.2 through 12.5, none of which are non-renewal. So it's unclear to me whether you are grieving the non-renewal, whether you're grieving the professional growth plan, which is not grievable, or whether you're grieving the contract. So I'll get back to that. You referenced messages, what messages get sent, and one of the things that concerns me is the messages that get sent to the multiple professionals in this building who have expressed concerns and have expressed frustration in their relationships. I think it's important for me to also consider the messages to those people. One of the messages that has been sent to those people by this administration is, if you got complaints, put them in writing. We're tired of hearing this verbal garbage. If you got a complaint, put it down. Because that makes it difficult for administrators to do their job when people don't put their complaints in writing. But before I go to my presentation, I'd like to put the administrators in the room on the spot, and I'm sorry you didn't have a chance to know this might be coming, but Mr. D'Agostino, Ms. Wilson, Mr. Byrne, and Mr. Gregoire all may recall in July, when I first joined this august group, I talked about the standard for renomination for probationary employees, and I explicitly said that my standard does not require deficits, does not require deficiency. My standard is based upon long-term goodness of fit. Do you remember that? I see you nodding.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I see 2 yeses, 3. Yes. Long-term goodness of fit. One does not have to have deficiencies in order to be non-renewed. The decision simply has to be that you don't necessarily feel that this person is going to be a good fit for the long haul. So, with that in mind, I'd like to move to my presentation. You have a copy of the grievance. But I'd like to just have everybody agree what a grievance is, and I'm reading from the contract. A grievance is, quote, a complaint by a teacher, group of teachers, or the association that there has been a violation, misinterpretation, or inequitable application of any of the provisions of this contract. The professional growth plan is not a provision of the contract, so all of the discussion with the professional growth plan is not grievable. And there may be personnel matters, there may be things that I need to talk to Mr. Gregoire about his performance in implementing that plan, but a grievance by definition is of provisions of the contract. And I'm going to take you through those provisions of the contract shortly. What the association is really attempting to do here isn't to grieve sections 12.2 to 12.5. What they're really trying to do is grieve the non-renomination, which is not grievable. The way this all started was a request that came to the school board requesting for you to have a hearing about the non-renomination, which was denied because probationary teachers do not have a right to a hearing in front of the school board for non-renewal. That was step one. As soon as that was denied, then this grievance showed up. The grievance is a fabricated contractual violation to seek to solve a problem that the association doesn't have the authority to ask you to solve. So, I'd like to share with you a handout from the New Hampshire School Board Association, which is entitled Teacher Dismissal and Non-Renomination at Your Fingertips. Ms. Lewis, I'll wait for them to go around. There should be enough copies to have two more down there. Yeah, keep passing those, so there's two. Thank you. Ms. Lewis falls into section 2, teachers with less than 5 years of experience. And I've highlighted 2 bullets. Teachers who have taught for 1 or more years but fewer than 5 in the same district must be notified in writing by April 15th that he/she will not be renominated for employment for the following year. The association has shared with you that Ms. Lewis was communicated with appropriately. The next bullet, teachers in this category are underlined, not entitled to the reasons for their renomination or a hearing before the board. That's what this is about. This is about complaints about the professional growth plan, which is not part of the contract, unhappiness with a decision that was made regarding renomination, and the fabrication of a contractual error in order to address something for which Ms. Lewis is not entitled to either a reason or a hearing before the board. Yes, Ralph?
There's no reference in the contract that cites the master agreement between the Education Association and the teacher being contracted?
Yeah, I'm going to take you through that momentarily. We're going to that. So this is Exhibit B coming around now. And Exhibit B is the grievance that I received. And what I have done for you is I've taken the liberty of taking out the references to the professional growth plan, which are not grievable, and I've taken out the references to non-renewal, which are not grievable. And what results is the substance of the grievance that actually is for your consideration. So, it's very brief. The first paragraph introduces the appeal. The second identifies Articles 12.2, 12.3, 12.4, 12.5, and other relevant sections that are undefined. If you go down 2 more paragraphs, the statement, "At no time did he present any written complaints for Ms. Lewis to see or respond to, as required by Article 12.5 of the collective bargaining agreement." If you go back to the association's handouts, let's just pull out that 12.5 so you can look at exactly what that says.
Page 8.
Page 8, thank you. Gotta juggle all our papers here. Okay, so 12.5. At no time did he present any written complaints to Ms. Lewis to see or respond to as required by Article 12.5 of the collective bargaining agreement. You'll see in 12.5 in the first paragraph that any complaint regarding a teacher made to any member of the administration, etc., which may be used in evaluating a teacher shall be promptly investigated. Any written complaints shall be available to the teacher for the opportunity to review and respond to said complaint. That's what this is about. In no time did he present any written complaints for Ms. Lewis to see or respond to. So I asked Mr. Gregoire, did you receive any written complaints?
Yes.
How many?
1.
Okay, so was there any communication to Ms. Lewis about this complaint?
Yes.
And what was your understanding about what happened as a result of this complaint?
She apologized to the offended party.
Okay.
There was, can I interrupt for a minute? I was never presented with that in writing to respond to.
Well, wait a minute, this is gonna turn into a free-for-all. Let him make his presentation, you
I'm
have an
sorry.
opportunity to rebut, but I think if we start going back and forth, it's not gonna work. So just make a note of that, make sure Peter's aware of it, and we'll have an opportunity to present.
So my understanding was that there was one written complaint, that you discussed it with Ms. Lewis, that she spoke with the staff member that was involved, and that, was it she that reported back to you that she had apologized, or was it the other staff member, or both?
May have been both. I remember the other party coming.
The other party came and said that this party had received
I don't recall if she did or not.
an apology. Okay, thank you. So moving on to the next highlighted section. In the formal write-up Ms. Lewis received, Mr. Gregoire noted no deficiencies. Okay, so that comes from deficiencies. 12.3. The administration, in recognition of the concept of progressive improvement, shall promptly notify a teacher in writing of any alleged deficiencies, indicate expected correction, and indicate a reasonable period for correction. In the event that deficiency could result in termination of employment, copies of any notice to the teacher shall be promptly forwarded to the association. Mr. Gregoire, were there any deficiencies in Ms. Lewis's performance that that you were required to notify on the basis of the contract, as you understand it?
No.
Okay, and I would bring back to your recall my direction to my administrative team, and I would point out that renominations are not made by the principal, they're made by the superintendent. I told all of them what my standard was. It was not about whether or not a person has deficiencies, it's about whether or not they're a good fit for the long haul. He says there were no deficiencies, I don't question that. That's not my standard. Moving on. Mr. Gregoire offered no suggestions for improvement, and he did not offer any written complaints from Ms. Lewis to respond to. Okay, so you didn't find any deficiencies. As a result of not finding deficiencies, you did not offer suggestions for improvement?
Correct.
Correct, okay. Now, it does sound like there is some disagreement about whether or not there was a written complaint from Ms. Lewis to respond to. There's a misperception. You say you got one and that you shared it. There may be a perception that you didn't. So this may be the nub right here of the grievance, is on near the top of the second page of this exhibit, that he did not offer any written complaints for Ms. Lewis to respond to. If that's the case, then perhaps there was a violation of the contract. The question I would raise is, looking at the last paragraph, in remedy, the Wakefield School District should offer Ms. Lewis a teaching contract. If that mistake, that he told her verbally about it and didn't give her a copy in writing, warrants this remedy, I don't think the remedy fits. One of the things that Mr. Miller didn't choose to share with you when he was sharing the evaluations was he didn't share with you that if you look down the rubric from prior years, and I would point out that the professional growth plan he shared with you in depth does not apply to Ms. Lewis this year, because she is operating under the old plan. There are new, okay, I may be incorrect, so correct me. Most of the teachers this year who were being evaluated under the terms of the old plan. They were grandfathered under the old plan. So there may be a correction, but it's not grievable anyway. It's not part of the contract. But what was not pointed out by Mr. Miller was that there were 8 areas in the most recent evaluation which identified her performance as basic. Basic.
Well, where is it?
You handed it out. It's from your exhibit. It's from the 2012 evaluation, which is
The one from Trish.
Exhibit 12.
Exhibit 12. You chose not to share that there are a number of columns: not applicable, unsatisfactory, basic, proficient, and distinguished. There are 8 areas that last year were identified as basic. Is basic bad? Is basic deficient under the terms of the contract? I would say it's not. I would say it's basic. I would say it's basic. And I would say that basic performance is not necessarily consistent with the direction I gave to my administrative team, that one could be a basic performer and one might not feel that it's a long-term ideal fit for the Paul School in the best interest of students to retain that teacher. So I think the characterization of distinguished performance, there are clearly areas of distinguished performance. I would not hesitate to say that.
Did you count the distinguished? Are there 15?
That's not the question. The question.
Wait. Let's do one side at a time. You'll have a chance to rebut.
As I said, I don't question the distinguished performance in certain areas. What I do point out to the board is that this was my choice to nominate or non-renominate. And my standard, which I made clear to everybody, is a standard of long-term goodness of fit. I explicitly told them that one could be an acceptable performer, one could have areas of exemplary performance, and still not necessarily be a long-term good fit. That's what I told them, that's what I'm telling you, and that's the standard on which the non-renomination was made. Okay, let's see. A few final points. The evaluation procedure, which was presented, did have hundreds of hours going into it. It's also a procedure that's still being completed. We have a meeting next week on that plan because we're still tweaking it. We're still identifying areas, particularly in the administrative process, about dates and deadlines and time periods. Although it was adopted with the understanding that it was a work in progress. It continues to be a work in progress. Ms. Lewis is not the only one. In fact, there are numerous members of the faculty whose evaluations were not successfully completed according to that timeline. Why do we only have a grievance with respect to this individual teacher? It's because it's not about that. It's about the non-renewal. It's a shell game. This is not about the evaluation. The evaluation in the contract doesn't say a date for the evaluation to be done. That's in the professional growth plan, which is not grievable. The contract says an annual evaluation. My direction to Mr. Gregoire was to get the evaluation completed before the end of this school year. And I'm expecting that he's going to have that done. That's consistent with the contract, which says an evaluation no less than annually. So, the fact that no one else, there is no grievance relating to anyone else, tells you there's something special about Ms. Lewis. What's special is that this isn't about that at all. It's about non-renewal. And that's what I have for you. The only question that is grievable here, because it pertains to the contract, is whether or not there was a written complaint and whether or not that written complaint was presented verbally or whether a copy was made available, which I believe is what the contract says. If that error was made, then that is a personnel matter that needs to be addressed. But the remedy that's being sought, the remedy that should be sought if there was an error in that, is that copies should be provided. The remedy simply doesn't fit that small mistake in the collective bargaining agreement. Thank you.
Do you have a follow-up just on issues raised by the superintendent?
First of all, I'd like to ask a couple of questions of the superintendent. Would you mind swearing him in, please, Barbara?
Sure. And raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth to help you God?
I do.
Jay, you said that you've been hearing about concerns about Liz's performance since the fall. You told Liz and Laura that during our meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Who did you hear the complaints from?
Mr. Gregoire shared them with me.
Did you hear any from employees who'd actually seen the behavior?
My communication, according to board policy, is through the building principal, so I would not go directly to an employee and ask for that.
So you didn't have direct contact with any of the people who saw it. So it was like so someone told Jerry and then Jerry told you?
I don't recall ever having heard anything directly from a person. I believe all the information I received was from Mr. Gregoire.
Okay, you've been hearing about concerns since the fall. How many complaints did you hear? How many concerns did you hear about?
Oh, I can remember. I would say a dozen.
A dozen.
Yeah.
You're a liar, Jay.
I beg your pardon?
Excuse me.
Did you say I was a liar?
Oh, no, of course not, Jay. I wouldn't say that.
No, but what did you say? Because that's what it sounded like.
It's my turn, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think he's asking what
No,
you
you
said.
misheard.
Why don't you just go ahead and go on to your next question?
Thank you.
Did Mr. Gregoire make recommendations to you regarding nomination or not renomination?
Yes.
Did he recommend that Laura Lewis be renominated?
No.
Did you take an action on nomination and renomination on any teacher that was not the recommendation of the principal?
Yes.
Who and what?
No.
Can you explain?
Yes.
We're in public.
All right,
We're
we're in public.
about
That's fine.
other
So
teachers.
I'd like to know what it was. Was it a teacher?
There is another staff member about whom Mr. Gregoire and I have had a number of conversations throughout the year, and he is aware that, based on the information I have, were I not deferring to him on this matter because he works more closely with his staff than I do, that I would probably go a different direction. I did conform to his recommendation, but it would not have been my recommendation if I were making it independently.
So I'm sorry, I must have misasked the question. I was asking, did you make any recommendations that were different from what Mr. Gregoire made?
No, I'm sorry.
So
I'm sorry.
So every recommendation, so you echoed Mr. Gregoire's recommendations to the board?
I did.
Okay. All right.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. Have any school board members asked you or directed you not to renew Laura Lewis?
No.
Did the principal give you a reason for not renewing Laura Lewis?
We've had a number of discussions over the course of the year about all faculty. I think he clearly has reasons. I mentioned that I'd heard a number of complaints. Those certainly were factors, but they were factors when we look at the whole person. We look at the whole person, and we had this discussion. There are complaints against me. There are complaints against most of the educators who are in the room from one time or another. What we're looking for, what I'm asking for, and did ask for, is look at the totality and look at the goodness of fit. Is this someone that when you make a commitment to them to move beyond the probationary period, that you have full confidence that that you are gonna have this person for the next 20 years, and that's something that they're gonna be a good fit for the next 20 years. That's what I was asking for.
Okay, so that, first of all, is Laura going to be on a continuing contract next year if she's renewed?
Are you asking a legal question? The answer is no, but under the collective bargaining agreement, a teacher who has taught for 3 full years in the district is entitled to just cause for non-renewal. So in effect, she would be a tenured teacher, even though she would not be tenured or continuing contract under RSA 189-14A.
It's a good contract, you're saying?
It's a contract that was written when 189-14A gave teachers continuing contract status after 3 years, and it has not been changed.
So Jay, you talked about the standard for renomination that you shared with your administrators, and you said that basically you don't care about performance, it's fit that matters, as you just said.
It's not independent of performance. Performance matters. What we're looking for is the overall performance, the overall fit. Performance is a component of one's overall fit.
Okay.
As I stated, you can excel in certain areas and not excel in other areas. The question is, are you the fit for the long haul?
Okay. And you're essentially non-renewing a teacher who's been here for 3 years based upon the recommendation of a principal who's been here for less than 1?
Based on the recommendation of a principal and based on information that as we have discussed through the year, Mr. Gregoire and myself.
Okay, so you have a rule about fit. All right, so that's what you're telling me. There's a rule that your standard is fit. So the employee has to perform and fit. And you told that to your administrators.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever share that with the staff, with the employees?
I didn't. I have not.
Okay, so it was a secret rule.
When you discussed the Hattie book, you did talk about fit.
Okay, I stand corrected. So there was a meeting, would have been in March, with the entire staff, in which we were doing some professional development around the Common Core, and Mrs. Wilson recalls me referencing that. I don't recall it. But
Was that before or after the decision was made to non-renew?
Would have been in March, so it would have been before the April 15th deadline.
Nominations were March 6th.
Okay. Nominations were March 6th, is that right?
I don't question if that's the date.
Okay.
Which is on the board minutes.
So Jay, you have the secret rule, or the special rule about fit. When you were talking about the rule about fit, did you explain that superseded the work that was in the professional growth plan, and that this new verbal rule would eliminate this one that says that contract renewal will be determined annually by the administrator and based on the decision, based on the summative evaluation? I don't see fit in that paragraph anywhere, but it sounds like that was an important factor.
If you refer to the handout that I gave from the New Hampshire School Board Association, there does not have to be a reason.
The question was whether or not the rule, the question, no, Barbara, the question was not about that, the question was about the rule. Whether or not there was a rule.
Stop.
Barbara?
Let him finish his answer.
I object to your conduct of this hearing.
I'm representing the school board here. We're trying to run an orderly hearing. Let him finish his answer.
I apologize. Would you re-ask the question?
No. I decline. All right. So I have some questions for Jerry too, please. Barbara, would you mind swearing Jerry in, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. Who, Mr. Gregoire?
Yeah, Mr. Gregoire.
Would you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear the testimony you give will be the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay.
Why did you non-renew Laura Lewis?
I didn't think she was a good fit for the school.
Why did you tell Laura Lewis that the reason you non-renewed her was that you heard complaints about her from other staff members? Did your reason change?
Why did I tell her that?
Yeah.
I think it was a global, when I say fit, not just any, as Mr. McIntire was saying, not just her performance in the classroom, but also the conduct in the school. When I came into the school last year, it was presented to me there was a toxic environment. And I felt like my charge was to make sure that I developed a building culture that was conducive to entire learning across the continuum for teachers, students, staff. It became a better place to work and a better place to learn.
Are evaluations or conducting evaluations an important part of a principal's job?
I would say so.
Okay. Had you read the professional growth plan?
Probably not entirely. I mean, I was going through this a lot I was doing this year.
Oh,
So
okay.
I have to acknowledge it. No, I did not.
You didn't?
Not completely. I mean, I went through a few of the meetings and, I felt like
So you weren't familiar with the March 1st deadline the school board had agreed to? And those were really okay. You had different rules that you were working with. Did any school board member ask or direct you to non-renew Laura Lewis?
Absolutely not.
Did you prepare a summative evaluation of Laura Lewis?
Have I prepared a summative? No, I haven't. I did my observation in January. I just completed a second observation. We have our post-obs, and after I complete my second post-obs, she'll have a summative.
Okay. All right. I don't have any more questions.
Okay, do you have any follow-up, Jay?
Could I just clarify a couple things that Mr. McIntyre brought up?
Absolutely.
I met with Mr. Gregoire on March 6th, and we had discussion about the complaint, but I was never told, and Ms. Hasmo was in the meeting, that there was a written complaint, and I was never presented with a written complaint to respond to. This was my first year on the new plan because my certificate expired in the summer, so I'm on my new certificate, and the understanding when we were presented with the professional growth plan was you entered the new professional growth plan when you renewed your certificate. And I spoke with Mr. Gregoire in the fall more than once about which track I should be on, and he deferred to Ms. Hasma and another teacher who were on that committee because he was unaware of which track I was allowed to be on because I have been teaching for so long. So we were unclear where to go because it was a work in progress. So he was aware that I was following the new professional growth plan because I met with him and asked him which track I should be on. Because it was only my third year in the district, but I have been teaching for 14 years. So we weren't sure whether that put me onto the experienced track or whether I had to stay on the non-tenure track for 2 more years. So I just wanted to clarify those things.
Anything else?
No, for me.
Yeah, I guess in closing, I would just encourage the school board to think about this. This is there are things that we can legally compel one another to do. We can force one another to do through the law, right? And we can say, well, we think the agreement means this, and they think it means that, right? And that's one piece of this discussion tonight. The administration says, no, you can't. The union can't force us to give her a contract. We're saying, well, we do think that the contract says that she has a right to be employed next year. That's one piece of it. Okay, and there's a disagreement about it. We could probably let an arbitrator decide it. But what's more important really is what I started the presentation with, which is about your mission and what you're doing and about the students. And you've got a great teacher who's doing great things. She's receiving high praise from her colleagues and from her students. She, really, the way that this non-renewal was handled was based on a rumor. There was maybe a written complaint that she wasn't allowed to see, but that led the entire decision to say, no, I'm going to stop your career here, and you're not coming back. Was some back noise about complaints. That's not fair to the teacher, but more importantly, it's bad for your students. You got a great teacher, you should keep her. Thank you.
Do you have any closing remarks?
No, I think this is very simple. Very simple question.
Board have questions?
Well, I don't see any board members raising their hands. They're not bashful.
Well,
Do you have a question?
can I talk to you and Pete out there in the hall for a second?
Yeah, if you want legal advice.
No legal advice, no, just ethical advice.
Well, you're gonna talk to me. You're gonna
Legal
talk to me.
advice.
I don't care what kind of advice I'm giving you, it's considered legal advice that I'm a district's lawyer, so,
Well,
why don't
I
we-
guess my problem is my experience, I've got good experience with Jerry, I've got good experience with Laura, and it's hard for me to set aside what my child's experienced. So, does
Well-
that create a conflict of interest
No,
as a
I
board
don't
member?
think it's a conflict that you have a child.
Barbara, I do have a question, though, it's important. Yeah. Did Jerry talk to any of the board members about this hearing, about the grievance prior to the hearing?
I don't know.
No? Did Jay talk to any of them?
Well, I think even if he did, it's a grievance, it's not a non-renewal or a dismissal hearing, so the rules are a little different, but he can answer that question.
I told him that there was a grievance that needed to be scheduled, and I told the chair that we needed to have it on the agenda. That's the extent to which it was discussed with him.
No, did not.
All right, at some point, I don't know if the board wants to deliberate now, or if they want to deliberate after they do their other business. I'm going to need to talk with them in a non-meeting with me for a few minutes before
Do you want to go elsewhere for a few minutes and deliberate, or do you want to
Or
deliberate
you want to
later?
wait and deliberate later? It's up to you.
We want to do it now, do it later?
Do it now?
Huh?
Do we have to do it now?
I
Do it later.
I would think it would, but my opinion would be to do it later. And then we can try to get through some of the rest of the board
Get rid of
business that's already,
agenda.
We have a long agenda.
yeah, we're already over.
I think if it's okay, it's my first time hearing both sides. I need to absorb the information a little bit so that I can make my
Let me just check
decision.
the deadline for, you don't necessarily have to deliberate this evening. if you
There's no
don't.
deadline?
Yeah, there is in the
There is.
contract.
There's a deadline in there for when the board has to issue a written decision.
Yeah.
I got another question.
If it's a legal question, save it.
Well, I just want to make sure that the contract does not specifically, is not hinged or married with
Well, you've heard
Teachers
both sides
Association.
say what they think.
You've heard
The
both
board, that's one
opinions,
decision
so
the
we're
board
gonna
may
have to weigh
make.
that.
All right, the grievance.
Right. I
You
think
have,
in response,
you have 10 days to issue a decision.
I would, yeah, I would say that we know that the contract sections are legally enforceable through the grievance procedure. The school district evaluation plan is something that may or may not be subject to the grievance procedure. The district says no, I say maybe. But really for this one, it's a question of, what do you tell the taxpayers? We invested all the money in this thing, invested all the teacher time, all the everything that went into making this, and now you're just gonna say, wow, we didn't really mean it.
Well, I think we've heard both sides give their opinions on that. I think the board, that's an issue for the board to decide. All right?
Thanks.
So that will be,
Yeah, do you wanna talk about a deadline for the response?
Well, the grievance procedure says 10 days. When is the board meeting again?
14 days.
no, it says 20 days from the time of submission of the grievance to the board.
Right.
Okay.
So
Which was on the last.
Oh, I thought it was 10 days after the, wait a minute.
we had 10 days to appeal after
Would be
we.
the 19th.
It's the end of 17/7.
Liz, we delivered it to the board on the,
International night.
so that was May 15th.
All right. Level 3, school board. Decision has to be appealed within 10 days.
Yeah.
With the right to appear, the board must transmit its decision in writing to the grievant not later than 20 days from the date of submission of the grievance to the board. So what was the date of submission?
How much time
May
would,
15th.
how
Well,
much
actually,
time
we
would
should
the
say
board
May
like?
16th, because it was delivered in
Well,
the
I
evening.
think probably since you're,
You're hearing it
I'm
now.
thinking, what, the 14th is when you would want to
through next meeting.
All right, so give them a
14th is
couple of
next
days.
Friday.
They're going to respond in writing, obviously, so. The 14th is a
Friday.
Friday. Okay, yeah, I'm looking. Okay. Why don't we say, but the board is meeting on a Friday?
No, the board
No.
meets on
No.
Wednesday.
When does the board meet again?
The 19th.
The 19th. All right. What if the decision is sent out on the 21st? Would that be all right with you?
What date did you propose, Barbara?
Well, I think what they might do is deliberate on the 19th if there isn't time to do it tonight.
The deadline is the 13th.
Yeah.
The legal deadline is the 13th.
Yeah.
Given that this is an employment job security issue.
Yeah. You
it's
want an answer
pretty-
by the 13th?
Yeah, it would really
Okay,
be
so you'll
best for
have to
everyone.
decide it tonight after you finish. All right, so we'll do it on the 13th.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So you can go through the rest of your agenda and then.
Yes, please.
Take this up.
Ready for the next one?
Yeah.
Ready for the next one? Can I have a bottle of water?
Yeah, can I take a?
I'm giving you chocolate.
Thank you.
Thank you for your
Can I
time.
take?
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate your patience. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Just here, I have to get any water in my room. Would you like one?
Actually, he brought some.
Okay.
Isn't that wonderful?
We have a lot of water for the 8th grade trip on Friday. So
Good luck with that.
Yeah, it looks like the rain is supposed to stop at 10 a.m.
I don't know, I have Red Sox tickets for Saturday, so it better be good. I have a feeling I'm gonna be wearing a rain hat. I know someone will take a couple. Oh, they're in the bleachers though.
Can we just take like a 2-minute break, if you don't mind? Oh, that's all right, take your time, bud.
Water do you have in that cooler? Because I mean, mine has gotten.
Yeah, well, no, go ahead. I just got a question, so take one, please.
I brought it down for you all before the meeting. I asked, no, I understand. I said to her, I said, this needs to get to Mr. Gerber. She said, I'll put it in my longest drawer. I didn't follow that up. So, thank you for your concern. I appreciate it. Any of that.
I feel like it's supposed to be full year. What? Hi, Fred. How are you?
Thank you.
Lisa, how are you?
Yours.
Okay. What do you say?
Yep, let's crank it.
Yeah, we gotta get through this, so. What do we got? We got,
Visitors and public comment.
public comment, but before we begin, there's gonna be a 3-minute limit to public comment, right? And I'm gonna set my, I think I'm gonna set my handy timer. Well, what do we, yeah, what, you wanna do? You want-
Say let the people speak.
Yeah.
What?
Yep, right.
Right, that's right. All right, any public comment? Judy?
I had a point of order during the minutes on your 5:15 minutes, public. Mrs. Macedo made a motion to amend and reseal the non-public minutes of 1/7/2013. And I was wondering how this board could amend minutes from a meeting 4 months ago that they were not part of. That's my first question.
What makes you think that the minutes were amended?
It's in your minutes. Mrs. Cyre made a motion to amend and reseal the non-public minutes of 1/7. That's why I tried to make a point of order before you approve these
No,
minutes.
I can absolutely address that question for you.
Do I get 3 minutes, or does the answers include in my 3 minutes of time.
Go ahead.
My second question is under the draft, it's actually a statement, under the draft non-public minutes. Mr. Rooney advised the board that Mrs. Nason and Mrs. Macedo were appointed to go through the sealed minutes. That's not true. That was a posted workshop of the entire school board, of which Mrs. Nason, Mrs. Macedo, and Mrs. Olympio were at. It was not an appointed committee. I wanted...
Excuse me.
No, wait.
You got draft, non-public minutes?
Right.
Okay.
I would have to, I don't believe Mrs. Olympia was there.
You weren't there, Mrs. Olympio.
I understand that, but I don't
Mrs.
believe.
Olympio?
It was me, you, and Viv, the three of us.
You weren't there.
Excuse me, Judy. The three of us were scheduled to go down there. I unfortunately could not make the meeting.
Oh, it was scheduled. Everyone was scheduled. It was.
That's
the board
right. So it's
posted.
my understanding, and which was brought back to the board, that it was you and Viv
No.
on that scheduled meeting that I did not attend, or could not attend would
It
be.
was Mrs., I'm just clarifying.
Okay,
It
well,
was
that's
not
what I'm
a-
trying to do.
It was not a committee. It was a board-posted workshop,
Right, yeah.
and it was Liz and me and
Well,
Miss
I'm not
Macedo.
aware of Liz being there, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, well, I'm just correcting, because Mr. Rooney said she wasn't, but she was. I had a question on, are the, my minutes up?
Let her give it a minute or two.
I believe you got one more minute. For some reason, it's no. Yeah, no, your 3 minutes is up.
Don't give it to her.
Huh?
Just give us
Where you had discussion with that, she may move forward for a few more moments.
All right, go ahead, Judy, you good?
I just wanted to give you a list of, I mentioned at the last board meeting about the scholarship night, and there was also on June 4th an all-school awards night for the National Honor Society, and I've got a list of the Wakefield students that were involved in both of those. And I know that the school used to have a board out front for things that went on with Spalding students, and I just thought it would be nice if those students were recognized. I'll keep my math and focus questions to the second public comment so somebody else can have a turn, but I'd still like an answer to my first question about how the board corrects minutes of a meeting they weren't at.
I believe that night we had a non-public session and we read over 6 months back. Is that correct? 6 weeks?
6 meetings.
6 meetings back? No,
No,
6
it
months
was
back.
6 months.
We went 6 months back. There were 6 sets of minutes. Some needed to be resealed, some did not, and one, it would have been the
Our meeting.
March 26th meeting. What meeting was it that we had to amend?
March 20th.
March 20th meeting had to be amended, and that's the minutes that were amended.
Okay, then your minutes are incorrect. That's why I tried to make a point of order when you were approving minutes before you did it, because it says to amend and reseal the non-public minutes of 1/7.
It would have been, we gave you those dates, didn't we, Deb?
Yeah. That doesn't mean I didn't make it.
Okay, if we can look at those, then we know that there were specific minutes.
What night are we talking?
Well, but isn't the answer to the question that the minutes were not amended?
One set was.
One second.
Oh, yes, I stand corrected.
And it would have been the 4th, Mrs. Cyre made a motion to unseal 6 sets of minutes between 2/7/13 and 4/3/13.
Right, but in
And
your
we did
public
that.
minutes on the back, it says that you amended and resealed the 1/7.
That's-
And if it's a mistake, I just
It is a mistake.
That's
It is
all
a
I want to
mistake.
know, because you can't amend minutes from 4 months ago of another board. So
Yes, ma'am.
I was trying to correct it before it was approved.
Thank you.
So we can revisit that now, probably, and
I think that Deb can take care of that and add them, it's in the non-public minutes.
But that we've already approved them, so we would have to,
Reopen and amend.
Again?
Well, if the correction is in the public minutes, if the
correction's
error
in
is in
the-
the public minute,
it is in
then you can just vote to amend it now.
Yep.
Because that's what I'm hearing, right, is it's the part in the public minutes that's the
Yes.
problem.
Yes.
So, yeah, let's
It
just
wasn't the
correct it.
1-6 minutes, it was the minutes,
Look at you.
the meeting of 4-3 and then the meeting before that.
I think there was just one meeting.
March. No, it was,
Well, I'm trying to think of the
I'm
meeting.
trying to think of the
where
date
we
that
had- where-
was in this room.
Was this the
March
our
20th?
Was this our May 1st meeting?
Yes.
So I can find the minutes?
Yes, ma'am. And the minutes that were amended were March 20th, and it was in this room. And then the rest were resealed.
yeah, would have been, yes, March 20th.
March 20th of the
Those
minutes that were amended.
the,
Everything else was read and resealed.
Non-public minutes from November 27th, from April 4th, from July 12th of last year, April 3rd, January 7th, and March 30th are the ones that you did. That's of any help.
Couldn't have been 30th.
There's another question.
It was 2011.
Oh.
You have, Mrs. Gavner's not hurrying up, and so doesn't Sandy. I don't know if you can see them.
All right, so what, can we take care of this now then, the minutes? Can I have a motion to what would be, amend the May 15, 2013 minutes to, I think all we're going to do is to strike amend and.
We're looking at the back page, Deb, where it says amend and reseal.
Yeah, so I believe we need a motion.
Wait till Debbie's ready. That way she
She's not
can get the
ready right
minutes
now.
right.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So snappy.
Okay, and the date should be?
March 20th, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Are the ones that were amended, the rest were just resealed. It would have been March 20th. We had 6 sets of minutes. And did you just hear the confirmation that Jay gave you on the dates?
No, I'm sorry, I was.
Okay, Jay,
Do you want me to pull them out?
If you could pull those out
I
just to
had,
clarify.
the dates I had were January 7, 2013,
Yes, ma'am.
11/27, 2012,
Yes, ma'am.
4/3, 2013, 4/4, 2012,
Mm-hmm.
3/30, 2011, and 7/12, 2012.
So the ones that were amended were in March of 2013.
Yes.
So that's 3/30, not 3/20.
No, it's the meeting was 3:20, not 3:30. I think that's a typo.
Okay. I wasn't at that meeting, that's part of my.
It could be part of I think you were on holiday.
Yeah, I wasn't
And
at
that could be
meeting.
part of the confusion.
This says 3/30/11.
3/30/11 is a totally different date then. Hold on just a second.
Was it?
It would have been past minutes in regards to something else.
It was the March 20th of this year, right?
Look at the January 7, 2000, they're sealed, so obviously I don't have them. Steve would have been on the board, he would have been the only member on the board.
It was April 3rd, huh?
Yep.
It was April
I'm sorry.
3rd that we were in here.
I'm thinking
It's
of
the
the
April
SAU meeting.
3rd.
I still wasn't at the meeting.
No, ma'am, you were
Right.
not.
The correct date would be April 3rd.
4/3/2013.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I'm thinking of that.
That,
SAU
right,
meeting.
that right. 4/3 was when we were in this room.
You're absolutely correct.
Yeah. All right, so, are you all set with that motion, Deb?
So what this form, what the note should read is, Mrs. Cyre made a motion to amend and reseal the non-public minutes of April 3, 2013.
Yes.
And to reseal the non-public minutes of November 22nd, November 27th, 2012, January 7, 2013, 4/4/2012, 3/30, 2011, and 7/12/2012.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay, motion,
I make that motion.
Who's second?
I'll second.
Well, Bonnie, Ralph second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so we're done there? Okay.
Was there a motion to reopen the minutes? Okay, so I just
Yeah.
withdraw
that was-
the original motion? I'm trying to figure out the progression here.
I believe Jay suggested that to just make the motion to amend the 5/15/2013 minutes, and then
Okay.
reflect that change that we just made. All right, okay. Jan?
I'll be brief, I promise. You don't have to set your time. Thanks for you.
All right.
And I'll just read it. This is a petition to the Wakefield School Board. The signatures below represent the request of the people of the town of Wakefield and its villages to cease its attempt to remove school board member Vivian Macedo from office. We, the undersigned, believe this is an improper use of Wakefield taxpayer funds in an attempt to unfairly discredit a respected member of our community and publicly elected official. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Sandy, or what, Mrs. Lamont?
When you guys did the petition, did you disclose to the signers of the petition that you guys, the old board, knew for 2 to 3 years that the Wakefield taxpayers have been paying hundreds of thousands of dollars for
Point of
students?
Point of order.
Point of order. Point of order.
I would love to answer that, but they're gonna shut me down so they can keep that rumor going.
All right.
Excuse
That can be
me.
a rumor, it's not a part of the meeting.
Wait, but I have documentation to back that information up.
Shut it
It's
down.
not a
No,
rumor.
no,
No,
recess,
okay.
we move to recess.
Just something else.
Is that why the director of
Unrelated.
students is not present? Because he could answer that for you.
All right, we're gonna have to recess the meeting.
Oh, seriously, I should have put my hand up earlier. It was a math question. No?
The board will reconvene, you can ask him that question when the board reconvenes. How long's the recess, 5 minutes?
Yeah. All right.
Mr. Chairman,
What?
could I clarify the procedure for the public comment?
How about it?
Let's
Mr.
go,
Bob?
come back to order first, please.
Yes.
Yes,
Make a motion to come back to order.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
I think as far as the public comment goes, if you direct all your comments towards the chairman of the board, you could probably keep talking, but you can't direct your comments or questions to another member of the audience and things like that. So just I'm trying to go by the policy that's already been established. Thank you.
Thank you for the clarification, Mr. Fogg. Okay, public comment? No. Oh,
I just have a list of questions.
well, I didn't,
Go ahead.
I saw Priscilla.
You can let Priscilla go, it's fine.
Go ahead.
I have an invitation and some tickets to the Spalding High School graduation and information on how to get on stage if you want to present diplomas. So I thought I'd turn this over to you.
Nice.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
In the past, have we had a representative on stage?
Yes. Yes, I've done it twice.
You have? Okay.
Well, should we address that here?
Well, get through the public comment.
All right.
Okay. I have a list of questions that I want to submit formally for answers in writing, please.
All right. I'll give them the name, I give them.
Sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You all set? All right. Anybody else?
I just have a comment about or a question about the math program, or both, maybe a comment and a question. I'm hoping that the new math program will bring kids better up to speed by the time they hit, say, 7th and 8th grade then. It's been my experience only as a parent of two totally different children, but who both were not prepared come 8th grade for algebra. One who never received a pre-algebra because there was not enough room in the class for her and several other individuals, so they jumped right into algebra. And fortunately, sorry, but have to be honest here, Miss Lewis put in extra hours for tutoring, really helped them out and got them through. Got an 8th grade right now who same thing happened. I mean, it was a tough year for him, but you know, it's thrilling for him and us that he's doing very well. He feels a lot more confident now. But I think it's not just, I think Miss Lewis did a super job, but I think something was missing, and I don't mean like just in 7th grade. There were little blocks missing building up that for my kids were very difficult to, you know, overcome without really extra help and extra work. So I'm hoping this math program, I'm kind of glad you're doing a double take, I'm glad you love it, that maybe that will be the better fit to get our kids prepared. But saying that, I have to let you know that when she hit freshman year and we went to her open house, which was last year, first thing we were told was, she pointed to the Wakefield children and said they're pretty bored because the other children are catching up to them. And I thought that was an amazing thing to hear. Actually, after somebody had struggled, it's enriched. So, you know, that our teacher had brought them that far. That they were, if not equal to, they were excelling above Rochester kids. So it's kind of exciting to think if all the blocks are in the right place where they will end up when they hit Spalding. So good luck. I hope that's the right one. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Judy.
I know I've taken up my time, but I have a letter here that Mrs. Macedo handed me when I came in the parking lot tonight, and I have instructions on the front of it. Judy, please read my enclosed letter during the public comment session of the June 5th, 2013 Wakefield School Board meeting. Once read in its entirety, please give the letter to Secretary Deb Gauthier to be included in the Wakefield School Board minutes of June 5th. So, with your, I know I've used my time, but
Can you wait till the second one to do that? If we can.
Just let her go.
All right.
Let her go. Please.
is that okay?
By all means.
Is it not, well, I mean, go ahead.
I don't
Go
know.
ahead.
I just opened the end. There was instructions.
I'm sorry. What?
She's just following the instructions.
Can you stand and read it, please?
I'll try to get my voice out here. Dear Wakefield School Board and the citizens of Wakefield, it is with great sadness and regret that I submit my letter of resignation from the Wakefield School Board. My first year on the school board was enjoyable, eye-opening, and a great learning experience. I was hoping to be part of making positive changes and improvements for the students, staff, and taxpayers of Wakefield. I was very optimistic that this was the direction my board was following. I believe we accomplished many things in my first year, of which I am very proud to have served. Unfortunately, I cannot say the same of the beginning of my second year with the new board. With this board, I have seen nothing but the dirty side of politics. There have been rumors spread throughout town regarding me and my family that have been very hurtful. I have been blindsided by false accusations and attacks at board meetings, bullied, harassed, disrespected, and threatened to be removed from the board. This is not, nor should it be, acceptable behavior of a school board. At first, I decided to stand up to these bullies and fight for my position on the board that I was elected to by the people of Wakefield. I wanted to fulfill my obligation for which I had committed. When I sit back and look at the situation and ask myself, what will I gain and what will I be able to accomplish with this board, the answer keeps coming back to nothing. I will be a lame duck, just a placeholder. They will continue to ignore my thoughts and ideas, not allow me to participate as a full board member, and continue the vicious attacks. Furthermore, I do not agree with the philosophy of this new board and do not wish to be party to the lack of fiscal responsibility that they have shown in their first few months. They show no interest in the financial statements of the district and the contractual obligations. They do not appear to show any interest in their committee assignments or seem to want to follow their own policies. They have an attitude that they have people to do these things for them. I appreciate the support I have been given from many of you and truly thank all of those that have seen the injustice and tried to help by signing a petition. I feel like I am disappointing and letting you down, but I do not feel that it is right that an elected official has to spend money to defend themselves against their own board and the endless checkbook of the mighty school district legal fund that this board is hiding behind to further their own agenda. I would prefer to just going back to being grandma, my number one priority, and concentrate my efforts on helping children in some other positive way. The only thing I can say is that children learn by example, and I hope that the students of Wakefield are not using these adults as an example of leadership. Sincerely, Vivian Macedo. Please include in the Wakefield School Board minutes of June 5th.
And why do I always get these letters to have to read out loud?
Thank you, Judy.
Thank you, Judy. Right, Mike. Everybody else? Okay, no, seeing none. Correspondence?
There's none.
Financial reports. Andrew?
You have 3 minutes.
Yeah, you can.
That's all okay. We got the expense report that was as of May 30th. Any questions on the expense report? Any questions on the revenue report? The grant report?
Andrew, could you please just quickly go over, I know that when we had the cafe services representative meeting, can you just quickly kind of explain to everyone so that why the fresh fruits and vegetables grant is in a different spot, not necessarily on here, and what it reflects, so that people can have some clarification on that?
The revenue for the fresh fruits and vegetables is shown here as being $10,666.
Yes.
But it's also included in the expenses under food supplies and administrative fees.
Mhm.
So it's really a wash because the revenue is derived from what has been expended.
Okay.
I have asked cafe services that in the future, and it might not be until next fiscal year, if they could break that out separately.
Yes.
To put it as if they could show it as revenue, to show the expense separately, so we could see that it's zeroing out.
Okay. Leandra, another point that we made a motion to approve cafe services for next year, but in the contractual agreement, there was a portion that said that we would have a profit of $700. And I know that we didn't speak of that in the last meeting, but I want the public to know that we did carefully go over that contract and that we do understand that they did make that promise of the $700, and their new budget for next year reflects the difference in that, but that's not necessarily where we're having a deficit.
No, because you have to add to the $700 is what we spend on maintenance and repairs and the
Yes, sir.
NutriKit system. But cafe services contract tells what the cost of labor and all the food expenses are. That's how they get up to $700. The other thing you have to also keep in mind is any deficit of students, parents who haven't paid for their lunches or breakfast
Yes, sir.
is going to impact that number substantially.
It is. I just wanted you to clarify that because I know that people had questioned that we didn't look at that piece in the contract, and I wanted to just make sure that you and I were both clear that we did address that and that the deficit is not necessarily based on the contractual agreement from cafe services.
No.
Thank you.
We also have in this package bank reconciliations for the student activity account, the food service account, and the general account.
How many years do you keep the accounts open after the class has graduated? Say the class is graduating this year, do they, if they have a carried over budget, or do they spend it down to zero every year? Or does the class donate those monies to like another class, or do they get absorbed into the school once the class is graduated? How does that work?
Well, basically, it just carries forward. We're in the process of cleaning that up, and there are several years, if you look at the summary sheet that has classes from prior years. So
Yep.
Andrea, Jerry, and I will look at that before the end of the year and clean it up. Actually, we've got to just move it into, divide it amongst all the other funds.
Sure.
And put it in there.
Okay.
And maybe going forward, we might want to think about how we want to handle that.
How you can zero it
Well,
out.
right now, like with the Boston trip,
Mhm.
there won't be any.
I do
They also give the students some spending money, so I know we're kind of reconciling that right now with making sure the kids have money
So they
to
zero-
spend for
they
it.
zero
Yeah, so
it right out.
if we're not zeroed out, we're real close.
You're really close,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
And so
that's-
that I'm just making sure that there's an avenue so that account like doesn't stay open for the next 10 years. I want to make sure that it gets zeroed out and that we can move forward and just bring the next
As
one
Andrew
on.
had said, after it's not been used for a year, we can put it wherever we want within the student activities. So if we want to put it in the Special Olympics, or if we want to put it in the winter program, whatever it is,
Okay.
the lines we have. We just did this the other day, the programs that we hadn't, that no longer existed, the student activities, what do we do with that money? And just put it in other areas where we know we can use it.
Just for the board's information to the public, that is one of the areas that the auditors go through and fine-tune the program every year. So, we also go on their recommendations, what they want us to do with them.
I also would like to thank you very much for putting in the 2013-14 adopted budget and the presentation that you gave the past board so that we could have very clear clarification of what's expected and how monies are supposed to be spent. And it's very useful information, and I appreciate your time in putting those packets together for us.
And we try to put in as many as we can to try to explain the line items.
It's very, very nice, very, very useful information. Thank you.
Andrew, can you explain to me driver salaries and repairs? please?
Is this in the expense report or the budget?
Yeah, I'm sorry, in the expense report. Is it,
What was your question?
Driver salaries and
driver salaries and the repair line.
Under transportation.
Is there, overtime, or is that the reason for?
The driver's salary for special ed is, when the budget was made, we didn't know we were gonna need an extra bus fund.
Oh, okay, all right.
That's what's taking that over. The repairs are, your budget for when you think you're gonna spend it, you have no way of knowing if the bus is gonna break down or. So those are all the expenses that we had, we didn't anticipate happening. We had a theft on the bus that had to be repaired, and it wasn't covered by insurance because it didn't meet the deductible. You have a couple items like that are under $1,000, it ends up bringing the line over budget.
All right, thank you.
But in total, if you look at transportation, they're under budget by $46,000 right now.
Right. Yeah, I just-
And a big contributor to that was, so you know, was the health insurance premium holiday that we were granted by school care this year.
Everyone all set with Andrew? Everybody all set?
Thank you, Andrew.
All right, thank you, Andrew. Budget review, was that? Well,
Well, there was a request to go over the material, and Bonnie said she appreciated receiving the material. So the question is, do you want to have more discussion about that material on the budget, or are you happy with the handout?
I was personally really happy with the handout, but I took the time to read it line for line, so I don't know if everyone else would like a presentation or if they're successful with.
Yes, is that a yes?
No, I was able to look at it. I got it good and early, so, I mean, we had the extra time to check it out before Saturday.
Okay, so we're all set? All right, thank you. Same with, or bus repairs?
Bus repairs, bus garage security, and also we have a bus purchase handout that Andrew has got all three of those for you.
It was my understanding we're gonna deal with the handout next meeting?
Yeah, we have to have a public meeting for
Yes.
this.
Right, this
So
is
if we can-
information for you, and then you have to
Yep,
have
so
a
if we can have part of the agenda for public hearing for the purchases of the bus for the June 19th meeting.
Okay.
You had asked for me, with Tim, to find out other places that could do bus repairs. And we checked with, the only two companies in the area that work on the buses is the Prizios and Crowell. The other places down in Rochester, and their rates are higher than the Prizio and Crowell's. Plus, if you start using them, you're gonna have a larger towing bill because of the distance. So what our recommendation is we're gonna stick with the Prizio for the van, and the Prizio and Crowell's, I'm sorry, I'm saying that the wrong way. Crowell's for the van and the Prizio for the buses, because they've been working on the buses, and they're familiar with our fleet. And their rates are very comparable to Crowell's.
Right.
Okay.
We should, well, we can probably make have a, transportation meeting, Bob. You're on transportation, right? You know, we need to, at some point in the near future, probably schedule a transportation meeting, if you can let me know when good time for you, or whatever, and so we can set one up in the near future.
I have a handout of upcoming meetings. We could just do that right now and set a date if you want.
Can you do it, set a date now, Bob?
Sure.
Do you know when you?
Tuesday, Wednesday,
Oh.
Thursday?
These are all of the scheduled meetings that we are aware of at this point.
Mrs.
Upcoming
Bowman
committee.
did ask that we are in need of holding a special meeting and where the board is available to hold it, in regards to the deliberation on the
Yep.
grievance. And the board has said that we are available Tuesday, this coming Tuesday at 4:30.
But that would be a non-meeting. That's not a,
Right.
Does it have to be posted?
no. If you're meeting with council,
Okay.
it's a non-meeting.
Okay.
What time was that, Bonnie?
4:30?
4:30.
Thank you very much.
Well, I take that back, because you have to make a decision, and the decision is a response. So I don't think it's just a non-meeting with council, because you have to make a decision.
Non-public meeting.
So I think there's no such thing as a non-public meeting. You have to go into a meeting to go into non-public.
Right.
Okay.
So it's still posted as a public meeting, then you say the only item on the agenda is non-public, then you come out and take an action as a result of non-public.
Right.
So if you're taking an action on that day, then it will have to be posted. So you
Right,
said
yeah.
next Tuesday,
The 11th.
4:30, Tuesday, June 11th, 4:30, okay.
Here at Paul School.
All right. What day and time is good for you, Bob?
After 4.
After 4,
Right before the 4:30 meeting on Tuesday. If you can do it in
Well,
half an hour.
That's fine. I'll be there.
yeah, we ought to be able to do, I think we can do that, all right? So,
Makes it easier. Yep. Tuesday, the 11th.
transportation, please, Jay?
I'll have to confirm, are you available then, Andrew?
Oh, yes, that's right.
And
Yeah, I have to check, I want to check with Tim, make sure he's available. Will that be here or at the SAU office?
Well, okay, wait, may I ask a question? Would it be more feasible for you, Andrew, and probably Tim? Well, I don't know about Tim, but for you, it would probably be better to just do it on a regular meeting, correct?
Oh, 4 o'clock Tuesday's fine with me, it doesn't matter.
Okay, I just, I'm just, all I'm
appreciate
asking,
that.
I mean,
It doesn't matter to me.
I mean, would you be all right with that, Bob, if we did it before,
Absolutely.
next meeting?
I
So
won't
then
be here
Andrew
for-
would-
I won't be here for the next meeting.
You, okay, well, that takes care of that. All right, so Tuesday is all right with you?
Yeah,
Tuesday
I'll
is-
let me verify with Tim, because I'd like him to be part of it.
Don't confuse me.
Okay, all right, thank you.
anything else that needs to get added to these meetings that are on this list that I handed out? This is all that I have.
If you can ask Scott to contact Steve and I in regards to
Yeah.
moving forward with the second reading and the first reading of our next policy. I
Okay.
did have to cancel yesterday due to my
Yep.
situation.
Who else? Let's hand up.
Well,
Is it, the SAU withdrawal committee, isn't there a June 30th deadline on that, or something
We
like
need
to
move
that
forward
effect?
with that.
I don't believe so.
I don't remember a June 30 deadline, but I can pull it up.
I know that it was 30 days after you start appointing.
It's
The committee
30
member.
days after the first school board member is appointed.
Yeah.
You have 30 days.
So can we get that
I
committee
I
decided?
would prefer to
and
get that
figured?
going and not pulled off any longer.
Me too.
If not, it's gonna be a lot of summer meetings.
And I would,
I just, my only thought behind that process was, because we have the change in the superintendent, is it's a little bit of consistency was to wait till we have the new superintendent to move forward. This will give him, he'll be 2 days on the job if we vote to do that tonight.
all right, why don't we, can we
So,
put it
I
on
don't
the
know.
agenda for next meeting?
I did speak to the new superintendent about it, and
Do you have other members lined up yet?
I think we started, right?
right,
We start it and then we have to go to the budget committee, I believe.
no.
Who do we ask next?
The budget committee has already appointed Dave Mankus
Oh,
as the
okay.
budget committee's representative.
And then there are 4 public members appointed by the school district moderator.
Do you have it, Jake?
Which is Mr. Sager, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, I have all of the information.
You have the Okay.
Yeah,
'Cause I
There's
haven't-
nothing about June 30th that I see in.
No, I didn't think there was. So it would probably depend on whether we want to give the new superintendent 2 days on the job, or maybe 16 days on the job.
Well, you can let the others get lined up and then put your guy on last.
I can't.
Is it possible to move forward and get the other,
Okay, yeah,
appoint someone from here and then get the other 4 folks lined up so that we can at least move forward, get a meeting planned and form some form of a focus
Fine,
group to get started on it?
That's fine. Like I said, the only thought that I had was to get probably, to get the new superintendent, so we're moving. We want to do
Off
it
and
now.
running.
Right, and I would like to be on that committee
Too bad.
as,
Just kidding. Just kidding. Just kidding.
I would also like to be on that committee if it's at all possible. Can we have 2 members?
yes, the board has 2 members. So can I have a motion to appoint 2 board members, please?
Can we table it till the next meeting to give Mr. Tercey a little more time on the ground, or what?
I'm fine with that, like I said, I did talk to Mr. Tercey, explain that if we appoint 2 members this evening, we'll have to call a meeting within 30 days, and that will give him like 2 days on the job. He did respond that, well, that's my job, so however the board feels that you'd like to, do you want to beat Mr. Tercey over the head as soon as he walks in the door,
Well, I think,
You can have an organizational meeting
You
too,
can have
and
it-
that would count for having your first.
That's right. You can have a very simple meeting to introduce everyone to one another and set up simple guidelines for organization and move forward.
Elect the chairperson.
but it will be without the new superintendent.
but it seems like there's a lot
For
of
now.
members.
For now.
Seems like there's a lot of members on the school board that are anxious to be on this SAU withdrawal committee, because, I'm hearing at least.
I'm not anxious.
You're not anxious? So there's only 3
How many do you
anxious
have?
people.
How many are we
You
allowed
can
to
have
have?
2.
Two.
I'll, can I sit in as an alternate if one of you people can't make it?
Well, there's public, it's a public meeting, so you're more than.
I don't wanna sit down and create a quorum somewhere.
Yeah, technically, there is no problem with you attending as a member of the public. From a political and practical standpoint, it's a bad idea, in my humble opinion.
Well, let's wait till the next meeting to appoint the members, if we can. That way I'll ease off. My interest will wane. Right now it's peaked. Is that bad?
What do people want to do?
I would prefer personally to move forward, get Mr. Sager to help us appoint the 4 people, and at least have an organization meeting so we have a direction.
I'll second Bonnie's motion. For discussion. Let's get going.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, we'll go forward with Bonnie's motion.
Right, and you put for discussion, so do you have discussion?
I'm showing interest, but if, I would say you 2 can go for it. So,
The way forward is to move 2 names, and the order in which you state the names is important, because the first person that you name is responsible for calling the first meeting. So that's what you're looking for at this point.
I'll nominate Bonnie Cyre to be on the SAU withdrawal committee.
Nominate Steve Brown.
Oops, got a second.
I'll do that first.
We're gonna second Bonnie's nomination.
I'll second that.
All right, motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Now I nominate Steve Brown, being an SAU.
I'll second that.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All abstain?
So will I contact?
Yes. I have it in I'll get it for you.
I would love that.
I have it for you.
Thank you.
It breaks everything, what you have to do now.
I would like that very
Yeah.
much, thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie. Thank you, Steve.
Oh, then we're sorry.
Thank you for the interest.
We'll do our absolute best to keep you
okay,
as informed as possible.
The bus garage security, do we have something on that?
We did.
There was a letter in the packet from Bob stating that those cameras that were rented were indoor use, not outdoor use.
Oh,
Those
yes,
two
okay.
cameras.
The inside use. Well,
Are these
well, can I, actually, I think Jay, wouldn't we have to do this in actually non-public? It's, the actual
Security?
security?
It's a matter of an interpretation, whether or not you feel that it's a, whether it's a matter of interpretation. I think you can go either way on this matter.
I would like to put it off till non-public, please. Pump repair line item.
Andrew?
Right now, the maintenance budget is under budget by 40-some-odd thousand dollars, so there's funds there to cover the $10,000 pump repair.
Is the pump still working?
There it is. It's working right now, but for how long, we don't know.
Right, but we already addressed this at the last meeting.
Right, but what we needed to address this meeting was to identify what line item we knew
Okay,
was gonna
I'm
be
sorry.
under, that we could move money from if necessary.
Okay, all right, thank you. Was that, you all set?
Yeah, there's one other thing that Bob informed me about today. There's a problem with the heating controller. It's gonna cost $1,500 to repair. So you want to know if you want to repair it this year or wait until next year? I'm suggesting we repair it this year because we have the money in the budget to handle an unexpected expense.
What is the issue?
Heating
heating-
controller?
What's that?
Heating controller, you said?
The heating circulator pump, I'm sorry.
Is that the one that we had the big discussion on last week?
Yes.
2 weeks ago?
Yes.
And
The
that's
circulator
broken
pump.
down now?
No, it's still, I think this, your question is to repair that?
He said it'll cost $1,500 to repair it.
Is that,
The circulator pump, we do not have, I don't believe we have another issue with our circulator pump. We do have an issue with the control panel, we have with the controllers, and there's some issues with wires, when the controls originally wired, it was wired in reverse, so when we had issues with heating in a certain room, Joe would go and turn the heat up in that room, and they never saw any effect from it. But another room was actually pretty sweaty, because that one was already 75 degrees, they could crank it up a little more and get up to 85 degrees, while the other room that was complaining was still feeling like it was in the 50s. And we realized in having, some repairs made, that we have some cross wiring going. So we do have an issue with the controller. I don't believe it's a new issue with the circulator pump. I think this is,
He said the circulator pump broke down 4 weeks ago.
That's what I'm saying, yeah, so this is the old issue of the circulator pump.
Andrew, is any of this budgeted in next year's budget?
No, because this was an unexpected expense for the circulator pump. It wasn't budgeted for
These
this.
are repairs from current breakdown, so this is not something that was anticipated, and nor is it anticipated for next year.
Okay.
Is any of this wiring a potential hazard to the safety of the students?
I don't believe so. That's not been expressed to me.
Before we move on, Andrew, what was the line and how much do we still have in it?
Maintenance? Maintenance line, Andrew, where
It'll come out of the right line, but there's enough money in the maintenance budget to
In
cover
the
it.
maintenance budget, okay.
Not specific line, because we have different amounts of money in each line item. So I just need the board to give me the okay to have this repaired this year or wait until next year, because it's budgeted in the year, but we have the funds available now.
What's the board's
We have the money
pleasure?
in this year?
Yes.
I make a motion to give them the $1,500 to repair it this year.
I'll second it.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So that's 1,500 to repair the heating circulator pump.
Heating controller wiring.
Oh, no, we're talking, you're talking US $1,500 for the circulator pump.
Right.
Oh.
Okay.
But that's not the issue, right?
Well, I think we're talking two separate and distinct issues. One is the circulator pump, which, Andrew, you're talking about right now for the $1,500, correct? Another is an issue that came up yesterday when we...
No, there's two, yeah.
And the other issue is an issue that came up yesterday, when Joe had, I'm not sure what the person was doing, actually, they've been going through some wiring, and we found that the wiring was crossed, and, defined that issue that I just explained.
Could you, or Andrew, get an estimate on that, on this, the control, is it the control panel?
It's the control panel.
The control, could you get a figure on to repair the control panel, Andrew, please?
Yeah, I don't think it was a repair, I think it was wires that were crossed or connected to the wrong zones.
So this isn't part of the $1,500?
No.
It's nothing to do with the $1,500. So I'm not sure if you want to look at your motion in your second again, to make sure you motioned and seconded on the right item, but...
It was the circulator pump? Is that what you had for a minute?
That's what I was, the March 15th minutes are talking about $1,500 for a circulator pump.
All right, I'll stay with that motion. The circulator pump.
I'll stay with my second for a circulator.
Just make sure you're all clear.
Yeah.
Okay, well, so that wouldn't change, so the motion was 4-0 to take care of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And at the next meeting, we'll bring
We'll
you an
get
estimate.
an estimate for the control panel issue.
Or the wiring.
Or the wiring, the problem with the control panel, whether it be wired, thank you. Okay, so that, high-speed internet access.
I talked to the town administrator to get on board with them with the high speed, and from what she's getting from MetroCast, it's not gonna happen because we're not equipped for that type of speed internet.
Time Warner.
Time Warner, yeah, I said MetroCast, but Time Warner.
So,
It's not part of the contract or something, she was saying that she doesn't think it's gonna happen, and so did she let me know, and I haven't heard back from her.
okay, so can you move forward getting an estimate from Fairpoint then? Because they said that they, in talking with Mr. Byrne,
Yes.
they said that they can do a hotspot right outside and give us ample coverage that would handle the amount of technology in the building. So can you contact Fairpoint and ask them about putting a hotspot right outside?
So you're talking about switching from Time Warner to Metro, I mean, to Fairpoint to...
Yes, sir, if they can accommodate us in a better
I'm in
frame
the
of
middle
mind.
right now of transferring the phone system to Time Warner as I requested the board earlier this year.
Well, maybe the phone system could get transferred, but we may need internet connection from Fairpoint.
And you said we are going to need a higher speed, and when we go to the smarter balance assessment, we are definitely going to need, whether we've got Time Warner for phone and whoever for high-speed internet, it's not something we're going to be able to get by it
It is something, Andrew, that we didn't anticipate, but we have to do what's in the best interest of the kids, and we need them to be able to use the technology.
I'll talk to Back Bay and see what they would recommend for us.
Right. I think Nate called it a hub from Fairpoint.
Fairpoint can offer us a hub direct.
A hub that they can set up on the property somewhere.
Hotspot or whatever.
Right.
I'll check it out.
All right, thank you.
Very much.
While we have mentioned Back Bay, we just need to address a technicality. At the January joint board meeting, the joint board voted not to go out and pursue other options for next year, but we didn't technically vote to re-sign a contract to Back Bay. So we, by default, that's what we did. We said don't go out to bid to anybody else, but we need to have an affirmative vote to re-enter the contract with Back Bay. So we have met with them, we've got the contract for next year, we have the scope of work for next year, but we need to have a vote to that effect.
And I had emailed you the contract a week or so ago. It's actually a little bit less than what we budgeted for next year, not by a whole lot, just by a few $1,000s.
Have they met the performance standards that were expected?
Yeah, I would say they have. It's hard because when it's sort of like if you take an old building and start doing repairs. When you take out the walls, you might find some stuff in there you didn't necessarily expect. So if you look down the line, they've had to move in some different directions, but I think they've satisfied the intent of the contract. Are you satisfied with their work, Jerry?
By and large, sure.
Yeah.
When we need them, they're here. Yeah, we don't need them here all that often. We've got new machines, but if they have a machine that goes on the fritz, they'll address it.
Getting up to high speed and getting that system to function is gonna require them. We're gonna need them for that.
Need somebody.
Yeah, right.
Back there, wherever.
Well, I mean, do you think Fairpoint may have a team that specializes in it and comes out and?
No.
Why do you think that?
Because they wouldn't be, because Back Bay is contracted by us to be here and be available every day. Fairpoint, I don't know whoever runs Fairpoint, but my expectation is that you call with a problem and you get on a list. And when you get responded to is when you reach that point on a list. Back Bay works for us every day. And if we ask Robert for something and Robert doesn't have the skill set, then they send Warren or they send Steve. I mean, they're working for us every day. Do you want to add something, Mary?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mary.
Yeah, Fairpoint wouldn't be able to do what Warren and Robert did to set up the computers for the Smarter Balance pilot test that we did. They had to come and actually upload and transfer student files to Smarter Balanced. That's part of the contract that we have with Back Bay, that they support a lot of the back end of things that we do, like the assessment building, those kinds of things. So Fairpoint would only do the internet access part. They wouldn't do some of those installations. They also update all of our software. When a new piece of update comes through, they update it immediately onto the server. So it's pretty seamless for us operating in the office.
I think it's like they deal with hardware, software in our network, and it's comprehensive, whereas I think Fairpoint will probably just provide us with network. That'd be my expectation.
Thank you.
Do you need a motion to move forward with the contract?
Yes.
As stated here for the $133,600?
Yes, that's not your portion.
So that's the two school districts on the SAU, which the bulk of that is the SAU expense.
SAU expense, okay. I will make a motion to move forward with the contractual agreement dated May 1st, 2013, addressed to Jay McIntire for Back Bay Networks. Can I just say it that way?
Mm-hmm.
For the term between July 1st, 2013 and June 30th, 2014.
You need a second, I take it? No second.
Discussion? Have you gone over and checked the contract, Andrew and Jay and?
Yes, we met with Back Bay last week or the week before, week before.
Everything is up to snuff, and is that something that you want to have council check, or?
It's,
Is it?
the backbone of the contract is not significantly different than this year, and this year was the first time we had them. So when the first one was done, I remember you saying that it went to council. What's significantly different this year is the scope of work, and that's what I focused on when I met with them, was making sure that we had a good, solid scope of work of what they're going to be working on next year.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay.
Go for it, Jerry. I had the pleasure of coming to the board last July when I first started, and walked right into that storm of the ink bid. And I would like to avoid that storm come this summer. And so I would propose that you request us to go out to bid for ink.
Okay, before we do that, can we confirm the vote? Is it 4-0?
4-0.
No. Oh, no.
That's what I was asking for, confirm the vote for the contract.
3-1.
Okay.
Oh, you were opposed?
Yes.
He did say opposed.
Now, I just have a question for you. I thought that in a past board meeting, we had already, Andrew buys bulk for ink already. I thought we had already made a motion to let Andrew move forward and purchase the ink. Didn't we just say that you have a provider that you buy ink from, right?
We use SES.
And didn't we approve at a past meeting for you to move forward with SES and purchase the ink and not do an individual bid?
Is that what you decided?
I'm
Yeah, we did.
quite sure we decided and voted on that already.
Because SES actually goes, the reason you voted that way, because SES actually goes out and does the bidding for you.
Does the bidding for
Is this
us.
for our individual computer ink? I mean, this is
It
the
was
issue
for
we
the-
had last year.
It was for the school
We had-
total.
Well, we had the contract that we had, as we recall, the nightmare of, which contract were we going with? The contract, we purchased ink with another company.
It really wasn't just purchasing it, that was a printer management company, Veritech.
Excuse me, Veritech, correct, thank you.
It wasn't just ink, they actually,
It was service also.
they took care of the printers, and if a printer broke down and it
Right.
couldn't be repaired, they'd replace it, but Wakefield didn't want to be part of that.
Mhm.
That's right, there was.
So
a
we've
decision
already made
because
the motion
decision
to
was-
let
I
Andrew
knew
go
it was
ahead,
from the
so
same
as
place,
far as I
and
know,
Andrew
and
did.
you can ask everyone else, but my personal recollection is that we've already
Okay,
voted for him
I
to
didn't
move with
recall that one.
SES.
Thank you. I want to make sure that we didn't end up this debacle again.
It wasn't every board meeting talking about ink bids, he's gonna be able to
Beautiful.
handle it.
So I will pass that along.
All right, administration notes.
Okay, I have some new administration notes. I apologize that I only wrote them today, so you didn't get them in advance. They're very straightforward about upcoming events, school meetings that the administration has attended. I do have a couple of other items while I have the floor. One is an invitation to Wakefield School Board members to the Bud Carlson Academy class of 2013 request the honor of your presence at their commencement ceremony. It's next Wednesday night. I will be at a Milton School Board meeting, so I won't be able to attend, but you are invited.
I have already responded that I will be able to attend.
Okay. And the other item that I would bring to your attention is that you had a resignation tonight, and you may want to talk at least a little bit tonight about what process you would like to implement to replace Mrs. Macedo.
I would recommend posting it in one of our, in every place you would imagine the posting, requesting interested parties to submit a letter of interest, and hopefully we get a couple dozen people kicking the door and to come and join us.
To include the newspaper?
To include the newspaper, absolutely. Maybe we can get it on the PEG channel. Maybe we can get it on the Wakefield Bulletin Board.
Do we ever include Foster's Daily Democrat?
We can include whoever you want.
Because
And
some of
when
it
you say
works so-
newspaper, tell me which one, because I get it wrong.
Well, I believe it should be, at least one should be the Carroll County Independent.
Okay.
I believe some people in town need Foster's more than the Thursday paper, so maybe that would be a good avenue to go down to.
Okay, and obviously website. When you send your next newsletter, put that in the next newsletter. So send a letter of interest. It seems to me do you want to send the letter of interest in hopes of getting somebody next time, or do we have them sent in care of Superintendent Tercey and anticipate dealing with it in July to give people a little more time to get letters in? What's your pleasure for timing?
I don't know, would you want to give 2 weeks or more?
It won't necessarily be 2 weeks because it'll take a couple days for it to get into the paper. Like if you
Right.
call tomorrow, or if
Right.
it won't be in the paper, so it won't be until next week, and that would only give people 7 days, and I don't know if that's ample time for
So-
people to respond.
Would it be best to put it, have it, well, wait a minute.
It would be the 10th, July 10th meeting.
The July,
If
the
you ask
July
people
10th meeting,
to
yes.
submit a letter of interest to Superintendent Tercey by July 1st, then he'll have 10 days to get those letters, to inform people of when the meeting is, invite them to the meeting, and be ready to act at your July 10th.
Sounds good to me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If I can get that in the Wakefield Weekly this week, Would you like that in for Friday?
That would be great.
Great.
Thank you.
Fine, right.
Okay, any questions on the notes that I sent out?
Anybody all set?
Well, we can't go in as a member of the public on that Milton SAU withdrawal committee meeting, can we?
Absolutely.
Sure.
It's a public meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, it's tomorrow, 3:30.
3:30 in the afternoon?
Yep, at the SAU.
So if I could just jump in a little bit here. I can't use any names. I want to talk a little bit about the Special Olympics that were held last week in UNH.
So good.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to go over Friday. You couldn't buy a piece of shade at UNH. It was such a sunny day. So, well, I can't go into names just due to the confidentiality. I just want to let you know that we received, our students received a gold medal for the standing long jump, the bronze medal for the 50-meter run, a silver medal for the softball throw, another gold medal for the standing long jump. These are different age brackets. A fourth place for the 50-meter run, a gold medal for the softball throw, a standing long jump. For the standing long jump, we got the bronze medal. We got the silver medal for the 50-meter run. We got a gold medal for the standing long jump, a silver medal for the softball throw, a silver medal for the 100-meter run, a gold medal for the standing long jump, and a gold medal for the 50-meter run.
That's
So
wonderful.
they did outstanding.
Excellent job.
And we got 6 gold, 4 silver, 2 bronze, and a 4th place race. So,
2 bronze and a 4th place.
correct. So they did an outstanding job. We had a busload of kids come over from the student council as well as from the 4th grade, both 4th grade classrooms. We spent the day over there, and they had a great time with sharing their classmates.
That's
It was
wonderful.
wonderful.
Old business. Nothing? Residency forms.
Residency forms. Currently, there are 9 students with no residency. We won't be paying the bills for those students. There's no evidence that they live in Wakefield. If evidence becomes available that they live in Wakefield, then Wakefield will be paying for them.
Regardless, not Spalding?
The last time we heard from them, they had said they were down to 4, and we had 11, and we put our list together and came up with 9. So.
Combination of a 9. And how are we doing with false?
I don't have the numbers, I apologize. We've received 4 or 5 more in the short time between the last meeting, so, but we're still got a lot out there.
Policy committee, I think we should address this issue.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I
So that we can-
think that we had that policy. Did we discuss that last meeting?
Discuss residency forms?
I think we discussed like how we need to start
We
implementing
discussed-
the process
I
of.
think we discussed it as a policy, but really just again as a general procedure.
Mhm.
It's still indicating that we need to keep the policy
Move
going forward
forward on
about requiring
Okay.
them, but how we're going about going, what we're going to do and go about getting them.
Okay.
What procedure.
Well,
I guess as I was listening to you, you're probably answering my question. Are we going to begin for next year accepting these residency forms here at the school, or, I mean?
That would be what I propose, is that we take them here at the building and we retain them here.
Seemed to work in the past, right?
That's the indication I get from Deb Wilson.
and I think we, excuse me, but I think we also need to probably have someone for the first week down at Spalding to try to get the Spalding students.
Somebody like a truant officer?
Or Mrs. Wilson, she
Mrs.
has
Wilson.
correspondence with welcoming the kids in their transition.
We can figure something out.
Yep.
We'll figure that procedure out so that we find something that works for everybody.
Thank you.
Sir.
Meeting management procedure.
Yeah, I had brought to you last time a draft procedure. There weren't any changes in it, but it was correctly suggested to me that it should be listed, connected to a policy. So it has been brought back to you. It's the regulation that conforms to policy BEA. So it's now listed as BEA-R. And this will go to the policy committee, and it will have to be approved by the board, assuming that there is no conflict between what's presented here and any existing policy.
So we read that policy, if there's a change, we read it twice in public, and then we vote upon it, is that correct?
Well, this will go to the policy committee for review, and the policy committee will come back to this board and say, the regulation that has been proposed is in conformance. It does not conflict with any policy. And if that's the case, then you would approve it. Or you would change the policy that would limit this.
Thank you.
Committee reports.
Who's first? Haven't had anything, right?
I don't think we have had any. We were gonna have policy yesterday, but.
We haven't had
facilities. Cancel.
Right, so that's,
And we've moved forward scheduling all of the next policy meetings.
We put it on the agenda for Scott to contact the members to schedule the next meeting.
yeah, we have a facilities on Friday, so.
And then I do
What time is
apologize,
it,
there was a
so-
wellness meeting today that I was unable to attend because of the funeral.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Okay,
What time is our facilities meeting on Friday?
9 o'clock.
So that's gonna be posted by tomorrow morning by 9 o'clock.
It's posted.
Oh, it's already posted, good. Perfect, thank you.
Okay, comments by the public? So,
Yes, I was wondering if the board plans on accepting Mrs. Macedo's resignation before you start advertising for that position.
I should do that. All right, thank you. Anybody else?
Yep.
Judy?
I was wondering about the land. At the last meeting, you said you were interested something about contacting our attorneys to start doing the legal work. We had decided to hire go with a title company, so we weren't paying a large amount to our attorneys to travel back and forth to do title work and so forth.
Yeah.
So I didn't know where that stood.
The attorney's only going to be present at the closing. That's the plan. They're just going to come to the closing. It was the attorney's suggestion that maybe they to represent the school district at closing. Right now, closing is projected to be somewhere in the middle to the third week in July.
Do you recall the name of the company that is putting together a plan? What was
as far as reconfiguring the land over there?
Yes, to come up with a plan for the most
Site plan.
site plan. Yes, you know.
I believe they were out of Conway. I can't remember the name.
Conway or Concord. Well, anyways, there's a
Harriman. Yes, I believe it was Harriman.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah.
I think it was Concord.
Right, I thought they were from Concord too.
Title.
Right, there is a company that is it, what would be the proper word? Is it a proposal? Is it a proposal?
Site proposal.
Site proposal for that, and then
Now,
that's
do
what
we
it's
know
for.
which, I know that it's not a current board member, but do we know which past board members had all the information so that maybe they could hand it forward, other than what was in the sealed minutes?
As far as the...
I have the purchase and sales agreement, the SAU has.
Yeah, we have the purchase and sales agreement. Yeah.
Other than
You have
that,
some for
I have
those?
some information, yeah.
Would you be willing to give that to us, please?
I just might.
Thank you.
We'd really appreciate that.
Did we pay for this site plan review?
No,
Okay.
no. There's something about, what was it? Right of first refusal, or if it goes out to, when it, something?
Is that they would have the opportunity to bid.
Bid, yeah. They would have the-
And then they would give us the
They would
details.
provide a
Right.
proposal.
It's an overview.
Right, it's more or less, exactly, it's more or less an overview. They're not gonna do a complete plan. They're gonna give us like a partial, and then,
That wasn't all my time.
No, ma'am, it was not.
That was Steve's time.
so, yeah, that's where that stands.
And you said mid to third week in July, Andrew?
Joe's assuming that it'll be somewhere in around the third week of July.
Now, do we have to, and these are just questions that I'm asking because I'm not 100% sure, are these things that we're gonna have to go before the town for the planning, for site approval and any changes that we get made, and have we been asked to be put on agendas and things like that so that we can move forward on those dates? Because do you have to go before site review, or does the school have like a waiver of that, or I just need to know that someone's looking into all the details so that it doesn't come July and we have absolutely no preparation whatsoever.
I can go to the code enforcement officer tomorrow and make sure that the school is doing everything properly according to the site plan regulations in town.
I know that Joe and Bob are looking into any permits we might need to remove buildings or do anything.
Absolutely. And we just want to make sure that we're on target with our feet running in July so that if we want to have our goal to have it ready for the fall, that we're prepared to do that. Or demolition or what have you. I don't know what permits are required, and I just think we need to.
Well, I think it would be, I don't believe it's going to be ready by fall.
Okay.
Because we don't have the money to do like the paving and so on and so forth, so that's all. I don't think it won't be ready for the fall, but.
Okay.
Ralph, I think it probably would be more prudent to allow Andrew to contact the building inspector to find out, to make sure whatever permits are needed and whatever else is needed from the town in order to do that. Andrew, if you could please take care of that.
Okay.
Thank you, Andrew.
We're still in public, yeah.
Yes,
Anybody else?
I had two math questions, quick
Good.
ones. Are kids going to be broken up into intervention groups like our reading program? And Math and Focus uses a lot of manipulatives.
Yes.
Are we going to make sure that teachers have the supplies needed to properly implement this program?
We look at that budget, last year we spent $5,300 on consumables. Now, it'll be built into the budget for the purchase of the program, but the following year we estimate right around $4,000 for that material.
It'll be in the next budget?
Because you have to buy the consumables every year. So we're expecting that it'll be less money spent next year, not on this coming budget, but when we budget for consumables for the 14-15 school year, it'll be less than what we're paying for everyday math.
Right, but I'm looking for the manipulatives, all
Yeah.
the little
But
blocks
that should
and
come with
toys
that.
and everything.
There's
The
kit-
program's
there's
no
kits
good
with-
unless you have the material to
Right,
run it
there's
with.
kits with each of the grade levels.
That come
Each
with the
teacher will
curriculum.
be given a kit that has all of the manipulatives for the entire class.
So that she can do the
Yes.
concrete part of the
Correct.
program.
Correct. It's part of the bid.
All set?
Anyone else?
Pardon?
Anyone else?
That's what I said, all set, and, okay. Andrew?
Can I suggest that at the next meeting, you have it include your public hearing for the land, so there's no holdup, because the board has approved us to go out and spend that money.
Can you put that on the
Yep.
agenda? Please?
So, it's not the land purchase, it's the land development. Public hearing on land development, would that be the,
Well, just to, okay, the spending of the $70,000 was put in a warrant article for the purchase and development of the land.
okay, but we've already done the purchase. So it'll be a public hearing on the expense for the development of the land.
But we're not 100% sure what that's going to cost yet, are we? So how do we have a public hearing on that?
Well,
I thought it was within that $70,000.
No,
So
that
I
was
just
the-
need,
No, that was the
That was the
purchase and all of
purchase
the
and sales.
associated legal expenses.
well,
That doesn't have anything to do with the development or the demolition of the process.
I need approval from the board to spend the $70,000 in the warrant article, because it's a
Okay.
trust fund. So if it's just it's for the purchase of the land and the associated costs for removing the housing that are on there and the actual cost of legal fees, so that you're just okaying, so when I go for reimbursement from the trust funds, they'll have it in the minutes that the board approved spending that money.
Okay, got it.
I understand.
and you need that now?
No,
Well, we
next
did
week.
before we go to close it, that you're
Do it
approving.
the next meeting.
Get down to the next meeting.
Did you have your hand up, Rob?
Just before we go into non-public, I have one more thing for public.
Is it short?
Yeah, it's, I'd make a motion to accept the resignation of Vivian Macedo as tendered.
I'll second
Anybody want-
that.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank
Motion
you.
to go into
Please thank Ms. Macedo for her
Yep.
service.
Thank you, Mrs. Lucido for her service. Motion to go into non-public, is that?
One is security, which is,
You have your list,
I do have my list. And the other one is to approve non-public minutes, for amendment of non-public minutes,
So,
which would be
91A, 2, 3,
Yeah, why don't we for time go to another round?
91A32I is pertaining to preparation for and carrying out of emergency functions. And the other one is RSA 91A32C, matters which is discussed in public will adversely affect, likely adversely
Right, so
affect
which
your
goes to
reputation.
which?
C is adversely affect, that is the approval of, that's the revision of non-public minutes.
Okay.
And A32I relates to security matters.
Okay.
Cyre, aye? Do we have them?
Yes.
Let I.
Log aye.
Brown, yes. Thank you for coming.
Thanks, everybody.